sometimes. I'm very excited. This is the last time you guys are gonna see. Well, okay, this might not be the last time. I might do a stream tomorrow, just to try and catch one last time to see all of you before we head out on our little our little vacay with the parents. But after tomorrow, if there's a potential stream, I've got a whole different overlay for you guys on this stream. We worked on it for a little while, we redesigned, and we will be introducing some new branding here. It's gonna look nice and key. Yeah, emotes? We're doing new emotes? Okay, cool. Mrs. Tomato's got new emotes planned. So I'm looking forward to, look, we're gonna take this little 2-week break, but I am looking forward to being back. And honestly, settling in. Like you guys remember how we took our trip back from Turkey to here? We talked about it for a little while, how it was going to work, but like over the course of maybe 2 or 3 weeks, we changed our plane tickets twice because things were not going well over there. And before those 2 plane tickets were changed, if we had not changed the tickets, guys, I kid you not, we would have still been living through what we were going through up until this weekend. I believe our flight was scheduled for the 6th of September, if I'm not... The 4th? The 4th of September. So, basically, this would have been like the first full-on stream that we would have been having back here. And that doesn't say a ton as an onlooker, but I'm sure some of you have noticed that the videos have become a little bit better edited, better written. Our streams, everything that we've been able to do since we got back here has been, I think, a little bit higher quality and probably had a little more energy into it. So I am so freaking glad that we did not wait and we changed our tickets. We wouldn't have been able to do the streamathon last week. For those of you who have been paying attention, I probably wouldn't have been able to get the No Man's Sky videos that I've released over the last couple weeks done, which is which is funny. Those 2 No Man's Sky videos, I kid you not, have created more engagement on the YouTube channel than 5 months of my normal content. YouTube keeps popping up and it's like, congratulations, this video is doing 38 times better than your normal release. I'm like, well, I guess people like No Man's Sky. It's not, I'm not changing the channel or anything. We're still Star Citizen focused. But it just, like, I would not have done that if we were back over in Turkey. Just the mental state, the things that were going on, all that kind of stuff was just not happening. So it has been a real blessing to be able to have these last couple of weeks being over here in the States and to be able to focus more on actually writing videos and publishing stuff and scheduling things out. And yeah, so thank you everybody who has been, you know, hanging out, coming through, chatting, saying hi, watching videos, whatever it is you might do. Appreciate you. Your dog is singing along to the horn. I'm glad your dog can enjoy this stream as much as we all do. No Man's Sky for YouTube channel? Nah. I like No Man's Sky, dude, and I'm going to be covering space games. I think something that people have missed, and I've not really made all that apparent, is that like the YouTube channel is not just Star Citizen. We specifically made sure that all the branding, the name, all that kind of stuff didn't tie us to that game because I like space games and I want to talk about them. For those of you who have gone way back, you remember when I used to brand the game around Star Citizen, Halo, and Cyberpunk. That's not an anomaly. I enjoy sci-fi and space games, so we'll be covering them regularly, as we will be today. My first topic of the day today is actually the Expanse, Osiris Reborn. We're going to do a looky-loo, a little preview here on this one. We've talked about it, I think 2 or 3 times now on Spaceman 02 on this stream, but I haven't gotten to really get into what I think this game has going for it and kind of the challenges it might have ahead of it. I will say the company themselves have reached out to us. I think it's part of their normal press. They just want to get space YouTubers interested in the game. But I am going to pursue that. Like, if you guys want us to do a little early review, happy to take a look. Because I do think this is going to be a pretty exciting entrance into the space game genre. But it's not really going to satisfy all of space nerds, I think. And we'll get into that. I think this is less a space game and more an RPG in space. A la kind of Starfield. A little Mass Effect vibe, which is what I think they've used mostly for their marketing. Before we get fully into everything, though, I'd like to give my hellos. I appreciate you guys. We love you for being here for the notification, for the brand start new name thing, whatever words. I don't know. But I love seeing your friendly faces and names in chat. Diva, or rather, Diva. Thank you for being here. First on Twitch. Welcome in, Juke. Mr. Juke Skysquawker. Didn't you win? Didn't you win last stream? Did you get your earnings, my friend? Thanks for popping in here. AAK Mr. 625. He was here with us for the podcast today. Those of you who are not supporters will be seeing that podcast in 7 days, next Monday. Those of you who are supporters might have joined us live, but if you missed it live, perhaps, anybody who is a Twitch subscriber, YouTube channel member, or a Patreon member, y'all have access to the podcast once it's up. Mrs. Tomato will probably have that posted up by tomorrow at the latest, so you'll get 6 whole days of early access to that podcast. It's talking about medical changes, which we're gonna touch on today. We're going back in. We're diving in. Medical changes coming from the most medic of people I know. All right, this guy has a confirmed more than 3,000 medical beacon rescues in Star Citizen. So I was very interested in hearing what he had to say about medical changes here and the future. Keep an eye out for that one. Zero. Lovely to see you in chat, dude. Tristan, welcome in. Nasty Master, Ethnification, Thaki, Mr. Hobbs, Frisch, Mr. Frisch, Gal Wallaway. Still taste those olives? No, I actually went to the local airport, chugged some jet fuel. It got the olive taste out of my mouth. Thank God. I'm so grateful to them. Howdy, Echo Zeppelin. Good to see you, dude. Shaman, Grimskunks, welcome in, guys. Ken, Mr. Ken Claudio, Anno. Yeah, I know YouTube's popping off. I see you guys. I know you're out here. Shifty Matt Sully, Diz Troy. Happy for you guys to be in here early. Thank you so much for warming the runway. If you're in here in chat before I go live, now that we have a much more consistent live time and it will not be changed for a long time, 9 a.m. PST, people are like jumping into chat before the stream starts. And I see that. I might not be able to respond, but for like at least 30 to 40 minutes before the stream actually starts, I'm generally at the computer getting ready for the stream. So I see your chats pop up. And that, you know, brightens my day. It's really nice. Thank you for that. Did I see that the PTU might go all waves tonight? Honestly, not surprising. CIG is on another one. They're about to release the Apollo while I'm away. CIG, release the Apollo today. Release the Apollo today. Say it with me, everybody. Release the Apollo today. Release the Apollo today. Release the Apollo today. They won't. I'm going to miss out on that one. Oh well. Stress can do a lot to people, and great that something outside of SC works. Yes. Yes. Being able to publish videos about other games I like is very nice. I won't lie to you guys. There is a obscene amount of thought that goes into whether or not I should cover other games that I like or not. It's basically like, it's kind of funny. A little insight moment. I know we're taking a little time to get into the news today. It's Monday, guys. Just gonna vent a little bit, you know? Before I started doing this as a job, I always used to look at people who did like streams and videos and even like artists, you know, people who would go out And
Thank you.
dude,
Thank you very
I'm not
much.
hearing these alerts. Why am I not hearing? Wait, hold on. Cubant. Motherfucking Cubant, dude. This dude just lit up. I'm sorry. This is Toes Gang. Cubant, you're already down here, dude. For like a huge number. And you're dropping 10 more subs in the chat on a Monday. My dude, you know how long it's going to take me to erase all this? I have an actual eraser, so not long. But you're crazy, man. Thank you so much. Holy crap, Cubant. You don't even know. You genuinely... You don't even know, dude, but I've got to meet your ass someday. And I don't mean literally your ass. I mean meet you. It's just trying to be cool, you know? Yeah, big cheers to everybody who came out and came through for the streamathon. Thank you, guys. Cubant with the 10 subs on Twitch. Thank you, my man. Yeah, so I used to watch people who did basically just artwork, stuff like gig economy kind of workers before I ever got into this stuff. And I was working on a salary. All right, I was working for United Technologies, big freaking company, I think 55,000 employees worldwide. They had multiple subsidiaries. They were making air conditioning. They were making elevators. They were making spaceship stuff and aircraft components. It was a huge company. And I worked for them, had a great salary. I was doing well. I was on yearly benefits, matches on the 401k, all that stuff. And I would look at people who were working in this kind of field and I was like, dude, how in the world do you deal with not knowing what's going to happen for you next month? Like, it's nice. I mean, the work economy is different now. People getting let go left and right over the last several years. But when I was working, I was like, it's nice to know I'm going to get a designated amount of money every month. And I don't really have to think too much about how that's going to differ. But doing this is like every single week. It's like complete change. Every week I'm like, okay, this determines how many meals we get next month. So how should this actually be approached? And that doesn't change necessarily my tone in videos or anything like that. It doesn't change whether or not I'm like criticizing a game or not. For some reason, people think I'm paid by CIG as if, I don't know, like, it doesn't make sense that I'm just paid by literal YouTube and the people who are like, I'm not paid to make things sound good for CIG. I am paid to get the proper information to the people who are watching me because they're the ones who care that much. Regardless, it's crazy to kind of look into the flow of how to release videos and stuff like that, to consider, oh, this video's coming out, should I cover it? Well, you know, YouTube does this and that with the algorithm, so maybe not. And it's an absolute blessing to be able to put out a video that I'm not sure is going to do well, and then it does well. That was the whole point of that story. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk. Never put all your eggs in one basket. I like space game focused channels. Same. You think Medical Goose should be Medical Slime and a seller of slime should be called a Slimer? Night Slimer. Ugh. Ew, that's a bad name. That's a gross name. Did I finish the Expanse show and books? No, I haven't finished either of them, actually. I stopped short of the Expanse season finale, or series finale, and I think I got to the 5th book, maybe, of the Expanse. A lot of SC gatekeepers that just throw hate on other space games. No Man's Sky is fun, and honestly, not many people know it has PvP too. Prefer SC though. You love No Man's Sky and day one players. A lot of people don't know a lot of stuff about a lot of games that I think they'd feel a lot different about if they did know. Matt Sully, dude, good to see you. Mom's making dessert. Wait, are you a YouTube channel? Do you put out videos under that name? I feel like it's like a community cooking channel name. In your video about ships in the monthly report, can't we guess what kind of ship are they unannounced by the fact it's UK team working on it? We know RSI are created by Turbulent CIG Montreal, for example. I'm not aware of that. If they've confirmed that somewhere, then I guess maybe that helps us pick things out, but I didn't know if there was a specific breakdown between different studios. Yeah, Voltaic. It was with AAK. You done ride-alongs for his medical gameplay? Dude, his medical ride-alongs are good times. Where are we going on our break? We're going to see a little Alaska. My parents have booked an Alaskan cruise. And we will be hitching a ride on that one. And seeing the whales and the ice and the water and the totem poles. So I'm looking forward to that. The quick and dirty rundown of this patch. We're gonna have to check that out together, because I don't know if I have all the information. What do you want to do with the Apollo? I think it will be as useful as other medical ships and the data runner ships. Yeah, I agree with you there. Not making your content a song about you. I can make songs if you'd like to hear me sing a little bit. I am a tomato. I have red juice. That's it. That's my song. Cover what you're happy with. We will see the passion behind it. If it makes you feel better, you could always do it on your other channels. For those of you who are into Space Games Weekly, who liked that kind of a channel, we're still considering doing that. Once we are stable and maybe able to put more time towards another YouTube channel, considering making a channel just for Space Games news every week, but we'll see. We shall see. Sorry, folks, I'm getting caught up on chat here because I spent so much time talking to myself. Make fantastic content, easily one of the top CCs. Thank you. Alaska is your favorite place you've traveled? I'm looking forward to it, man. It sounds like there's a lot of history to be learned.
Thank you very much.
No whale steak then. I don't think that could even work out. Would you ever eat whale steak? Yeah, I don't think Mrs. Tomato could bring herself to that. Thank you, Shantar. I appreciate you. Will robbing Medgel be viable? That'll be an interesting one to consider. Frisch! Frisch, you drop a membership, dude? Frisch did his membership 23 months. Appreciate you, man. Thank you. What do you think of the Apollo, Carrack, and other ships, maybe like the Galaxy with medical bay could... Sorry, if the Apollo, Carrack, and other ships like the Galaxy could research and craft medical goo, maybe requiring collecting some materials from places. I'm guessing that medical goop will be crafted in like fabricators. So I would assume we'll have portable fabricators, and you could just have one on whatever ship you need it for. Hike Denali if you get the chance. I don't know if we're gonna have time to do hiking. Not like that. What's your take on this? Should CIG rather finish ships that are already in game, or should they keep adding new ones? That's actually a topic for discussion today, Ken. Wait, was that Ken? No, Iceheart, sorry. That is a topic of discussion today, and I'm already working on a video that talks a little bit about this too. It is, so we'll be discussing that, because we're going to talk about the Aurora update in the monthly report, and kind of they're getting to ships that need it. But I've got a video coming out this Friday or Saturday about the removal of concept ship sales from the store, from their future. And I've got the most, I want to call it a clickbait thumbnail, but it's honestly, it's not clickbait in the sense I think most people think about it. It's just clickbait because it looks so funny and interesting. It's a completely truthful thumbnail. It's just I've been working on trying to make thumbnails a little more clickable lately. And here is what we will be releasing with this week. I'll give you guys a little preview of it. Oh, it's opening in the wrong app. It's opening in the wrong app. No, don't open in a freaking Affinity. God. There we go. This is the thumbnail. And it's basically just announcing that CIG, or not announcing, but it's covering the fact that CIG is not doing any more concept ship sales, except for the big one, the whatever, battle cruiser. And why they might be doing it, what the significance is, all that jazz. We'll see how it does, but I'm quite happy with the thumbnail on this one. Mom's Making Dessert, thank you for the membership over on YouTube. If you did a channel, it would be for metal guitar covers. Well, you're gonna have to change your channel name to Moms Make Metal Guitar Cases. The chance this will be your best video ever for view numbers? No, I'm pretty sure that's the No Man's Sky video. And that's going to be that case for quite a while. That video has done... I can't even describe what it's done. It's insane. Thanks for subbing up, Sriro. And Gwyn, I'm sorry I missed your sub earlier. Got caught up in the Cubint excitement, but thank you for the 4 months, the 6 months supporting the channel. Much love, man. All right, now for this week's different things that we're going over. Like I said, first thing I want to cover is the Expanse, because, well, we're going to be doing a whole bunch of Star Citizen today, so I figured I'd get this out of the way first. Whoops. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up their actual website for this. Hope y'all are excited for it. We'll get to Star Citizen after this, I promise. Don't worry. All right, so Owlcat Games announced their new game, The Expanse: Osiris Reborn, a few months ago. And if you've heard of this game, you've probably heard it compared to Mass Effect. It seems like they really want it to be compared to Mass Effect. Obviously, it's going to have to make its own name at some point, but it is supposed to be a space-focused RPG with a lot of character and story focus and development and things like that. Will it be the next Mass Effect? I don't think we should even try and make that the goal for it. I think it should try and figure out its own thing. But it could also be like, Mass Effect's a great space RPG, but a lot of people who are watching this channel or follow this same time of games that I'm following are looking for a game that allows more space-based things in an RPG. Zero-G locomotion, spaceship flight, survival elements around oxygen, gravity, heat, and stuff like that, radiation. Those aren't necessarily things that I think might be in this game, but I do want to take you on a little preview, and we can see how much is this a space RPG, how much is it a story-focused RPG in space, how much is it The Expanse. I'm going to show you guys the trailer that we got not too long ago. We're going to do a little introduction here to get an idea of where this game takes place. And I'm also going to show you a new environmental showcase that they came out with as well. And just kind of do a whole round out about what this game is looking to provide. So first things first, let's check out the trailer and get a better idea of kind of what they're going for here. You'll hear a lot of like the way they want to set the tone and the lore behind how the Expanse works. But there are a lot of things here that are very much trailer things. So just, you know, keep that in mind.
Zafar, pull up NavTech.
Just a sec. Got it.
Taki, we gonna find out about your Kopang right quick, okay?
Just want to do him justice. Stuck his neck out for us. Least we can do is get him out alive.
We've got big enough guns to make justice, all right?
Oh, Michael. To a man with a hammer, just about everything looks like a nail.
Aim for show. Time to say oh yeah with our hammer.
Missile range in 1 minute.
Brace yourselves. We're going for a spin.
I just wanna call out a couple of things here. We've already seen two pretty big parts of the Expanse universe included here. One is this ship combat.
1 minute.
Now, I am pretty sure I haven't actually found the explicit mention of this, but I am pretty sure that ship combat and in general ship gameplay is not going to be in the game. It sounds to me. Yeah, I'm sorry. I can't find a specific reference to this, and I will bring it up if I can throughout this video. But I have heard talks, whispers, and murmurs that ship flight in the game will not be controlled by you. This will be kind of like the Expanse, where you're using the ship as a means to get around the different areas in the game, but you're not exactly using it as the means of playing the game. I don't really have a problem with that, to be honest. I think there are certain games where I would care a lot. This doesn't really sit in the category I would expect it. Owlcat is not a huge company. They don't have Bethesda levels money, which Bethesda was able to put some levels of ship combat in their game, but the combat that's in Bethesda doesn't reach levels that you would say from like Squadron or Elite Dangerous or Star Citizen. So there is some reason to be like, hey, you know, just forget the ship combat, focus on what makes your game special, which is the RPG elements and the living in the area. So that doesn't bother me too much, but something to keep in mind. Yeah, like Outer Worlds. The other thing was obviously gravity. Zero-G boots are like, you cannot make an Expanse game without this, right? So they show it in the trailer. We all know it's in the lore and in the fiction. This is going to have to be part of the game. And I think this is one of those things that's like, if you don't have EVA as a pretty significant part of this game, you're really falling short of what an Expanse RPG should be offering. And then, you know, dumb NPCs. Okay, so they said it in an interview. There will be no ship gameplay, but events where you can interact with the ship. Good.
Zafar, did you get a signal?
After the large haul down this corridor, they shut down this part of the facility. Long time before our arrival.
Fine. Let's deal with those guys first.
Another significant feature they like here, self-propelling grenades. That one comes up quite a bit in the previews I read about this. And you can't put dual wielding in the trailer and not have it. We know that from Halo 2.
Zafar, you were right. They shut down this.
Wait!
Follow, I need backup.
Hold on, I'm coming! I'll cover you.
These guys can't aim.
Thanks.
I can't see shit from here.
The bird up high shall be thine eyes.
What the hell happened here?
I love that I didn't even realize this. I'm pretty sure this guy is just like floating on his feet because they're in a zero-G environment. And he has his mag boots on, but like nothing else, so he's just sitting there.
Hey, buddy.
Got into the pop rocks. And then they hit us with the song, dude. So it's an interesting looking game. It's exciting. I mean, to see something that looks this high budget covering the Expanse is probably one of the more exciting things to happen in the space game genre in a while. It makes a lot of sense as a game. It started out as a game, The Expanse, I believe. It was supposed to be like a tabletop RPG, I think. And they show a lot of stuff here that really, to me, again, looks like Mass Effect. You know, a lot of platforming, a lot of running around, a lot of moving through low combat areas. You've got third-person cover systems, obviously different types of enemies, specialized abilities in your character, all of it just wrapped in the Expanse wrapping paper. But as we get into like more of the different like previews people are getting, so this was a trailer that came out a couple months ago, but just in the last few weeks, so this was August 28th, we've seen different publications actually getting hands-on with the game. Not hands-on, I'm sorry. Eyes on. They haven't gotten to play, but they've sat in a room with somebody else playing and seen the game played live. So it's actually closer to a release than I thought it would be. This seems like it's a next year kind of release, possibly early in the year, but they might also be considering where Grand Theft Auto 6 might land. So we don't have any announcements on specific release dates or even release years, but this feels like a next year kind of thing. And a lot of these previews say a lot. Like I said, they compare it to Mass Effect a lot. Here from The Gamer, they're saying the combat is reminiscent of Mass Effect with cover-based shooting and the player issuing commands to their companions. In this case, Jay uses explosives to destroy cover, forcing enemies into the open. The time to death when caught out of cover seems quick, as I saw Rastorgov fall very low a couple of times. Okay, so that's the person who was playing the game. So right there, you've got cover-based shooting, commands, and group gameplay with your companions in the game, and low time to kill. Honestly, it's Mass Effect without the high time to kill. They say, in my view, combat is where Osiris Reborn could use the most polishing, tactile, satisfying gunplay is tricky to pull off. Your shots have to feel visceral, the animations have to look reactive. Even something as simple as animation for a health bar depleting has to feel thematically appropriate. There's a sort of stiffness to Osiris Reborn's animation. Shooting an enemy causes blood to begin spurting into the air haphazardly, but the visual feedback doesn't feel reactive to your rate of fire. A nitpick, but it's also the kind of thing that comes from maybe a company stepping into a new field. One of the most well-known games that this company works on is called Rogue Trader, and honestly a lot of their games are CRPG focused, so they're more commonly seen from this perspective as opposed to like a high budget third person perspective. This is what has caught people off guard a little bit as to the fact that Owlcat is making a game like this, and it kind of shows their step into a higher caliber of games, not in terms of quality, just in terms of presentation. Continuing on though, listening to how this is being kind of applied from The Expanse, they say the Expanse is about being pure and realistic. This is coming from Michelin, who is probably referenced up here somewhere. Yeah, creative director of the company, Alexander Michelin, and game designer, Leonid Rastorgov. I'm sorry, guys, names. They get me sometimes. Where was it? Sorry. Here we go. I asked him why Osiris Reborn has realism when the show does quite a lot of hand-waving in this regard. He says science fiction varies wildly in how inexplicable the science is, but Osiris Reborn is trying to err on the side of realism, which is more in line with the books than the TV show, which had to make sacrifices in this regard due to budget. Okay. I think that's a pretty key bit of information too, is this game is actually taking place right around the beginning of the Expanse series of books and TV shows. More TV shows. The books have a lot more going on. So you actually do see the message that Holden sends about the Canterbury. You see that the whole thing with the Canterbury did happen. You are inside of, I think, Eros, possibly, when that all goes down. So you kind of get an alternate perspective of the Expanse universe at the same time that the show is happening, which I think is a really good move on their part. And this really is looking at what happened in the background of the show and the books that we didn't get to see. Here they mention that the protagonist is actually a person with an identical twin named Jay, that being your first companion. So you play as the protagonist, fully voiced, which we'll get to in a second in the new trailer. And they say Jay is the only comrade present in this particular mission, but a standard squad comprises the player and 2 others. They stress that Owlcat wants every character to be involved in ground missions, not just the companions that the player has selected. That's an interesting move. Characters not accompanying the player will be given other roles, such as leading secondary squads to alleviate pressure on the player, providing analysis, temporarily meeting up with the player during a mission, or supporting ground units from the ship. As fun as that sounds, I do kind of hate that at times when it feels like I'm trying to play this game and the game is trying to shoehorn in that there's another person who's like working along with me. They keep reaching out. Okay, move to this spot. I'll stay here. Like, brother, just let me progress as I please. Thank you. So that might be something to look out for. Now, like I said, you play a protagonist fully voiced. And I think they wanted to show that the protagonist was fully voiced in this new trailer that came out. This is showing off more of the environments. But it does come off a little bit, I don't know, kind of reminiscent of how game companies would advertise their games with like fake dialogue when they would do game demos in the 2010s. You listen, let me know what you think.
Ground control to Private J. Says you day.
So you hear it right there. That's confirmation. Ground control to Private J. So this is one person referring to whoever your identical twin is in the game. And you could probably assume that one person is your character.
Ground control to Private J. Says you daydreaming again? I am. See, so we just need to shoot a few more unlucky bastards and done. Us 2 merry mercs can finally have some shore leave. Where are you hoping we dock? How about Ganymede?
So they're doing a couple different things here. They're showing us that the main characters are voiced. They are trying to give us some exposition as to the story and the situation that the main characters find themselves in. And they're trying to give a little bit of an explanation of the different possible locations in the game. That's all well and good, but they call the video an environmental showcase. So I think people are mostly caring about seeing what is going on here. And so a lot of I don't even know what to call it. A lot of reactions latched onto the dialogue as opposed to the places we're seeing.
Fresh veggies from the domes, no damn tube protein. And some cranky Martian Marines itching for a fight with their UNN counterparts. I'll pass. Other options? Series? Might look a bit grim sometimes. And OPA extremists are working overtime to set the station on fire. But it is the largest port in the belt, with a bar guide the size of the UNN's desk jockey manual.
So Ceres will probably be like the main location.
You told me you were tired of bars just yesterday. I said I'm tired of drinking with Luciana. She remembers too much and me too little. Forget Ceres, then. My suggestion?
Ganymede.
Eros.
Ooh, Eros, yeah. So, if you know The Expanse, you can recognize how big a setup that is for the story. And I think this is like, it's a nice chance to be able to drop what you would call an environmental showcase, but still do some solid marketing for where the game's going to be set. Eros is where like all of the that goes down in the Expanse sort of starts out. Not a great time for anybody who's there. So the story starts out with you being in Eros, and then, you know, the Canterbury goes off. Things are going wrong with Proto-Molecule, and that sets the stage. Yeah, the music is great. The environments, I think, look pretty good. They look dense, complex, and not samey everywhere, but you can see a lot of similar assets. It's definitely hard sci-fi. Like they said, it's not really fantastical, which means unlike things like Mass Effect or even... No, Starfield doesn't really have aliens. I guess it has aliens that you can find in around the worlds, but this is much more grounded. They're not going for scale. They're not doing a whole bunch of star systems or a bunch of planets. It sounds like they're picking out for us maybe 4 to 5 main locations. They're going to depend a lot on the story, a lot on small set cases and set pieces we can see from the look of Ganymede. No, not Ganymede. The frickin' they just named it. They just named it in the trailer. The place with all the food.
Fresh veg. Finally, have some shore leave. Us two merry mercs can find a few more unlucky... I am. See, so we just need to shoot a few more unlucky bastards, and done. Us two merry mercs can finally have some shore leave.
Yes, Jupiter
Where
Moon.
are you hoping we dock?
What is it called?
How about Ganymede?
Ganymede. It is Ganymede. Okay, I was wrong. So yeah, Ganymede, like you can tell, this is smaller scale than what you would see in what they described in the books, what you would see in the show. So I do think that, like, there are still budget constraints that mean this is going to be a relatively smaller scale story, but Owlcat is really known for their writing, and that's where I think it's going to shine through. So I don't think this is going to be like a space epic, a big opera like Mass Effect, where you're traveling to all these different places and meeting these different species and doing all this stuff. I think it's going to be a more intense and condensed story. Obviously, with the Expanse, you also need to include plenty of politics. They mention it here in the trailer itself. They talk about Mars and the hesitancy towards Earth. They mention the Belters. We know there's a lot of pain between those 3 factions. So I think there's going to be plenty of politics and kind of stuff surrounding that. They haven't mentioned a lot of things that have to do with like skill checks or conversations that can lead to different outcomes, but I could also see that being a bit of a thing. Ultimately, can't hear me? Have I been muted? Can you hear me now? Good. I don't have a Verizon phone, so I can't put it to my ear. Ah, look at this. They mention it here. It's complete with dialogue trees, companions, and third-person shooting. It's unlike anything Owlcat has ever done, which is both exciting and worrisome. Their most ambitious game yet, and the team is fully aware of the difficult task ahead. So, branching dialogue trees is a big one. This is a big game for the company. And I might be wrong about the scale of it all. Maybe it is a big space opera that goes all throughout the game and all throughout the fiction of the Expanse. But I think it's good for them to try and start fairly small with this and then expand out. Honestly, in the same way that Mass Effect did. The first Mass Effect was not perfect, but it captured us. And if they could do the same with something like this, just put out a good game, makes a profit, sets a good precedent, and gets a good reputation, it lines them up for an Expanse series, which could be pretty influential in the genre. Something that respects sci-fi pretty well, feels fairly grounded, it's story-based, it's single-player, it has characters you care about, locations you care about, things you want to see, exploration to be had. They could have a winner on their hands here. In fact, what do they even say about exploration here? They say, it's a third-person sci-fi action RPG set in the universe of the Expanse where the balance of power between Earth, Mars, and the Belt is breaking down and trust is hard to come by. By the 24th century, humanity has conquered space, but that hasn't made life any easier. You'll fight to survive and hold your crew together as the system pulls you into a conflict with an organization that's already destroyed too much of what you care about. I believe is that Pinkwater Security? Or maybe we work for Pinkwater? Let's see. Yeah, you begin as a Pinkwater security mercenary, taking some routine shore leave on Eros Station, when your much-needed rest is abruptly cut short as chaos erupts and an escalating emergency forces the entire station under strict quarantine. From what I have heard of that, you actually get decisions to be made in this game similar to those of Mass Effect, where you don't know if the decision you're making is a big deal or not until you see the consequences. So you can make some kind of sort of second-guessing decision that you don't put much thought towards, and then like 10-20 minutes later you walk down a hallway and you realize everybody is dead because you made that decision and you have to pay for that. So this is very much a choice and consequence kind of game. Just wanted to make that aware because they mention here something about escalating emergency forces in the station, quarantine, all that stuff. I've heard things about the first mission. I won't spoil them for you, but I heard things. Continuing on exploration, they say, this is your story, a personal journey that evolves through the choices you make and the pressure they place on everything you stand for. You play as a mercenary on Eros Station where a routine short... Okay, they basically just say that same thing over and over again. So, characters, combat, exploration. That's the focus that they want us to have. And it's all in the Expanse universe. We will see how it goes. Personally, I am waiting to see more about what they're talking when it comes to EVA, zero-G, gameplay. Are there survival elements? I don't think we'll have to like eat and stuff like that, but will we have to keep life support going on our ship? Will we have to make sure that when we get off the ship into these abandoned space stations that we have enough oxygen? How far are they going there? Until then, this is the preview I've got for you. I hope you got plenty of information about this game from this. Feel free to subscribe here. I will also be making a video on the main channel next time we get an update on this, but I do think it's one that's worth following if you like space games, especially if you're like me and you like single-player RPGs. I'm thinking they'll probably put out another, like a deep dive. I'm betting the next thing we see about this is going to be the actual devs speaking in video about this game. A sort of a promotional deep dive into some particular part of the game in the next couple of months. Whenever that does come out, check back to Space Tomato, because I'll be trying to cover that for you. Either way, hope you got some good info from this deep dive. See you in the next one. Very wise to start small and nail it. I agree. Mass Effect 1 was a big game for its time, but like, imagine if they had tried to start with the recipe that was Mass Effect 2. Somebody asked how this streamathon went, by the way, the other night. It went phenomenally. The community freaking showed up and came out. We had some huge ballers on the page here. PK and Cubant went absolutely ham over on Twitch. Was it Twitch? Yeah, it was Twitch. Much love to you guys. Need to start reading The Expanse? Definitely. Give it a read, dude. It's very good. Want to see more of the game before you decide on that? Feels more action shooter coded. It's definitely more actiony than the first Expanse, or the first Mass Effect. That was kind of what they got in the latter Mass Effects, was they were like, okay, now we know how to do a combat system well. Do I like Callisto Protocol? I actually haven't tried Callisto Protocol. Speaking of which, thanks for letting me hang out for many hours with you in the stream. It was super fun. Also, did you get me on that whiteboard yet? You were on the whiteboard. Weren't you? Thank you, though, for joining me for the stream, man. That was good fun. Haven't looked at the funding in a few months. Right. Yes. Yeah. No, funding is pretty wild. August is not doing as well as September currently is not doing as well as September did last year. But we'll see what happens when they release the Apollo. You added a couple subs today. What? Oh, thank you, dude. 5 subs goes on the board. But I appreciate you for the community. Thank you for gifting out the 2 subs, my man. I don't know how I even missed that. How did I not hear that? Zerb also resubbed up. 52 months out here. 52 months, Zerb. Zerb's one of those people that I definitely recognize the name of. He swings through very often. Obviously been supporting for quite a while. 54 months, actually. But, like, not always in the chat. I appreciate you regardless, man. Action RPG is your favorite. Samesies, man. Fucking samesies. But yeah, funding this year is doing pretty good. Honestly, I'm more surprised by the citizen count. I did not think that they were going to be able to grow ahead of last year. I think it was around May time. Is this May? April, May time when we were like, okay, so they're behind last year. And last year was not that great for adding in new accounts. But they are pretty significantly outpacing last year now as far as new accounts go coming into Star Citizen. So I'll be interested in seeing if they can bridge the gap and get closer to 2023 again. If they can get close to 2023 or at least above 2021 in terms of player count added this year, I think that's actually pretty good for them considering the general sentiment around the game, at least in the vocal minority online. It's looking like that's going to happen too, because we're already well ahead of where August or September was in 2021. Nobody will ever match 2022 again until the game reaches 1.0. But we'll see if they can. You got a friend of yours in during the free fly, and he really enjoys the FPS gameplay, and it's pretty good turret gunner on controller. Oh, nice. We could always use a good turret gunner. After that long stream, I went into No Man's Sky on Saturday and built your Corvette. Pretty cool. But you're ready for SC again. Did you post the Corvette in the channel? I'll check that out when I get a chance. I haven't built anything more than my starting Corvette in No Man's Sky yet. I'm a lame-o. Yui, good to see you in chat. Single player is already a good thing, but I need to see more of the setting itself and the plot to decide if I want to give it a try or not. If there's only humans again, I'm doubtful. It's only humans. Seems to be it's focused on humans and a little bit of that proto-molecule mystery, but you know, it's the Expanse. I don't even think we know any other aliens in that universe. And I'll catch you later, dude. Thanks for dropping by. Think No Man's Sky was a nice break and reminded everyone why SC is the best upcoming game. Hey, it certainly is like a good reminder that all games are different. Like Star Citizen and No Man's Sky can have some of the same features and still be wildly different games. I saw somebody commented on my video and they were like, something like, thank God more people are seeing Star Citizen or Scam Citizen for the failure it is, or something like that. I'm like, brother, this video is not even about it was a video about No Man's Sky and Starfield, and people are still bringing up Star Citizen. I'm like, there are other games you can play, you know. It's already your biggest gripe about Mass Effect 1 through 3. Oh, like not having playable aliens? Yeah, that's a big ask. That's a pretty... I think that would be too difficult for a company like Owlcat. You played more No Man's Sky than Star Citizen, but you're glad people are starting to get back into it. Dude, I'm just glad that... I mean, look at what we're talking about. We're going from the Expanse game to talk about Star Citizen while No Man's Sky is doing great and Exodus is sitting and waiting. If they haven't gone and canceled it, then we also know that Star Wars Eclipse is like somewhere in the making, somewhere out there. Falling Frontier is in development. Wildgate just came out. Jump Space is coming out in like 2 weeks. It's good times. It's great times to be a space game player. Simply prefer not playing humans. You hate us? This just in, Yui hates humans. All right, should we talk about this medical gameplay stuff? Get a little summary in there for all the people who haven't gotten to catch up over the weekend. I just had a long talk with AAK, Mr. Beacon guy. In fact, let me show you what this man has done. Look at this. This is AAK's spreadsheet. It's a public document. Anybody can find it. You just look through Stat Citizen. He has literally tabulated every beacon run he's made for years. And there's 500 of them right here. He's done many more. But of the ones that he has actually... Hey, there's me! Wait, this was the one that we did. Dude, I have a YouTube video of this. This is such a fun rescue. Oh my god. He has the video linked here. Literally, this is insane, dude. You gotta put it out. You gotta give it up to AAK. Put your money where your mouth is. Test the features. And then upload videos to every single one of those tests that you've run. And CIG actually has a pretty solid amount of feedback to get on their beacon system here. But you can go in, you can see it, you can check the stats on how often they lead to rescues versus him being attacked, how often people are setting traps, all that kind of stuff. And most of the time, it goes through and he's able to rescue people. Yeah, see here it says, was it a trap? And it looks like basically every single one of them was a no. Here's a couple that were yeses. So you can easily just like blacklist those people. But, you know, this is the kind of data that helps a game actually get better. And I appreciate that. So I just had a nice long talk with him on the podcast. It'll be coming out for non-supporters next Monday. All supporters will have access to it probably by tomorrow. And, you know, a little more insight, a little more stuff to consider. Wanted to go back through this with you guys and take an opportunity to talk more about this. Playable aliens in Mass Effect 1 to 3 was not possible because we were Shepard. They'd have to have several recorded main voices for each species or have unvoiced protagonists to do that. They'd also have to figure out how the story makes sense with an alien. You are Shepard, the 55th Turian Spectre. So you're not really that important, but we're still going to make a game about you. Is Everspace 3 a thing? Not that I know of just yet. I don't know. Is this Salty Mike's? Is this is Salty Mike's neighbor, right? I wouldn't know. I don't know who his neighbors are. Hopefully he's got more privacy than that. Do you mean like they did just live really close? AAK, you live next door to Salty Mike? It's a tarp. Actually, I don't think I really have much more to go over on this. Make sure to down yourself to give the server plenty of testing. Lady Space Patrol, good to see you in chat. Let's see how the payouts and costs change on medical. Yeah. So we've had a few days to look at these medical updates, think about them, talk about them. I had my podcast with AAK where we got into more depth about how these things are being perceived by people who run beacons a lot, people who are medics in Star Citizen. And overall, this is something that's going to affect everyone, especially these further down changes, like having an actual respawn screen in the game and stuff. The biggest thing most people, I think, are considering, though, is the cost to do respawning. Not even really just medical stuff, but respawning in general. is, I think, 100 centi-SU of med gel. And I take back what I said. Actually, healing is a big thing that people are looking at as a potential problem here. And that is that healing is 50 centi-SU of med gel. So if you have, it still incentivizes people to do more respawning than healing, was what the issue was that we came to on the podcast. Now, obviously, people who aren't concerned with healing gameplay don't really care much about that, but CIG has sold a lot of spaceships, a lot of promotional art, a lot of things in general have been based around the idea that, like, you're getting people back to your ship. You're exfilling them. You are going to a place, helping them to the ship so that they can get rid of their injuries and possibly taking them back to a hospital. And what they do with continuing to make healing or respawning more viable in all these different ships and vehicles is they're basically saying, you know what, let's focus more on respawning and making respawning easier and not burdening people with injuries and healing problems that they might have for 10, 20, 30 minutes at a time. And, you know, certain people feel certain ways about that. You think that the message is loud and clear? CIG wants medics to run bunkers and shoot people at ASD so he can afford to heal people. Well, that's another thing to consider. Is like, if medical beacons, as are talked about here, are giving people 15,000 credits when they accept them, but it takes you potentially 50,000 credits to make any sort of a healing action, then technically you're losing money every time you take someone actually back to your ship like this to heal their injuries. But what if you're just healing them with a med gun, you know? That being said, as a medic, you're probably going to get better ratings if you take people back and heal their injuries rather than just get them up with a med gun real quick and say, okay, bye, good luck with the rest of your stuff. So the potential of needing to use more of your resources on your mission it's high, and it does mean that you probably are going to make a loss if you're going out healing somebody full of their injuries and then leaving and getting 15,000 credits for it. A lot of people will tip you, but that's not required. So some concerns there about the cost of actually healing and how it's being communicated to people. But ultimately, this combined with our very favorite, our one and only, legendary, absolutely legendary line.
But the thing is, I've died 1,000 times.
It was at this moment he knew. He fucked up.
Putting out a trailer like this. I know I keep coming back to it. It's just like all this time that they have spent with making Star Citizen sound like it's a game where death matters a lot more, and then they just come out and put that trailer out with this guy's like, oh, I've died so much. What are you, rich? You just super rich and you got item recovery, huh? It definitely takes away from the idea that we are trying to preserve life more as opposed to just respawn where we can. And I think there are more things that they have to introduce when it comes to that, but it is a little disconcerting that none of that shows up in this life and death and life again beyond 4.3.1. In fact, rather than hearing more about how death will be a big deal and matter in the future and possibly linked into DNA degradation and the loss of your imprint viability score and all that kind of stuff, they introduce us to the ability to select respawn locations from multiple spots, essentially removing the whole idea of clones. Again, this doesn't break the idea of the game to me very much, but it does shift once again from the last thing that they told us about this technology. And that is We've decided that CIG needed to have technology akin to cloning where players could bring their avatars back from death itself, but with a few key requirements the lore would have to address. First, the avatar's memories have to be passed on, no point in making a biological copy if they can't remember anything. Second, the process needed to degrade over time so that people in the universe are not immortal. Third, how your avatar perished should be reflected in their new body. If you got blown up, we want to see those scars and cybernetic limbs. Fourth, we also wanted characters to age and not just hop into forever versions of themselves. And fifth, there should only be one copy of someone at a time, no clone armies running around. Now, they could still do this. They could say, well, once you pick an imprint location at that respawn, it cancels all others. There you go. There aren't clone armies running around. But it still does kind of... It starts to be like, okay, well, if you're telling me that multiple locations can just spawn who I am, does that really mean that there's only one version of me? Like, I can just send my info back to multiple places. It gets a little iffy. Scrolling down to their terminology, they talk about an imprint, the term of a complete and holistic bioscan of an individual that not only creates a record of one's DNA, but also all their memories, thoughts, and personality. While imprints can be transferred between spheres without loss, only one copy of an imprint can exist at the same time. Updating an imprint will override all previous imprints, so they got to change this. Now you can have multiple imprints at different locations. And then they have the imprint viability score. This is the number used to rate the viability of an imprint to be used in regeneration, owing to the degradation experience from echoes. Imprints eventually become so damaged they are no longer viable, and the individual will no longer be able to regenerate. Using higher quality imprints and equipment helps prolong a patient's IVS. This is where Death of a Spaceman comes in, and honestly, still something that it sounds like they want to do. I think even here they reference that yeah, this is not the comprehensive Death of a Spaceman we're still driving towards, they say here, but a brief exploration of some of the changes and additions we'll encounter along the way. So there's stuff that's not being mentioned here that will still make death matter. But like, we're still at this point where it's not well defined enough that they can mention it here. So as much as it's good to have this information out that clarifies how things are going to work, it's still not telling people exactly how it's going to work. And again, we only have this and the other various places they've talked about Death of a Spaceman to come back and look into what they actually have planned. And what a lot of people take from Death of a Spaceman is that it is a permadeath system. Unfortunately, CIG also calls it a permadeath system at times. But really, the main thing this does is it's a money sink for insurance, right? Lifetime insurance, life hull insurance, life insurance. And it is a way for reputation to like really play in. I think when it comes down to the actual questions they have here, they might actually mention here we go. Are you concerned that the fear of permanent death will scare players away from combat? They say no. We're building a combat game and are going to do everything possible to encourage players to dogfight and otherwise battle each other. In most dogfights, even if your ship is destroyed, you won't lose a life, as it's very likely you will eject in time. Unless you're in a Drake ship, sorry. Waking up in a medbed with a new limb should be a rare occurrence, unless you really like to live in the most dangerous and unregulated parts of the galaxy. The fear of permanent death will cause some anxiety, which will add to the overall experience, but it will be more than countered by the potential rewards. In a world where everyone is vulnerable, no one has an advantage. They want to focus on credits and reputation. They don't want this to happen very often. Reputation and faction alliances pass on to your new character, but slightly diminished. That's the big one. And then also you're paying for a lot of stuff. If your original character was a pirate, then the new one will also be aligned with pirates, but not as much, and you will still be on the UEE watch list. No slate will be wiped clean, but if you want to change your allegiances, this could be the start. So, you know, they wanted to play into the natural part of playing this game, but I'm not sure if they're still going to be able to do that with how much it really does seem like they're trying to make respawning a lot more of a regular thing. So that's kind of just trying to put some context into where we are in medical gameplay, in respawning, compared to the overall grand scheme of things. I think if I have one last thing here that I can look at, it's Chris and Rich doing a little update. This was... I actually don't know if I'll be able to find it. Chris and Rich. Death of a Spaceman. This was not too long ago. I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago. And Chris Roberts and Richard Tyrer gave us a fairly comprehensive talk about this stuff that you can listen to and then compare to what's coming out now. Gets your brain flowing. This isn't it, is it?
Now that
No, that's not it. This it?
it's spooky time, and
Yeah, this is it. All right.
Be there at your,
So let's listen to what they're saying about this.
the ones past it. There's real consequence. I mean, you die, and you've got to fight back through all those enemies. You've lost all the experience that you gained, the souls, in the case Demon Souls. But the thing with Demon Souls, and it was one of the things I was playing. It reminded me of the good old, the days in the 80s and the 90s when you'd make games and dying had a real consequence. You wanted to finish your level before you died, or else you had to do the level again, right? So and consequently, when you finished the level or achieved something, you really felt, proud and happy doing it yourself, which is definitely, I think one of the mechanics that makes Demon Souls and its subsequent games, both infuriating and rewarding when you manage to do it. So kind of the idea was like, what kind of consequence can we have in our persistent universe in terms of, how do we encourage the players to stay alive? How do we encourage the players to keep their ship or repair their ship intact? We don't want people to just go, oh, I got a scratch, I'm just going to respawn in a perfectly, pristine state for, the character or the ship. And so Death of the Spaceman was sort of an idea to give an association with your player character in the game, in terms of this is who you are, and you want to keep yourself alive as possible, as much as possible, and identify with your avatar as an actual real person and character, and you care about, and you want to keep alive. And then, finally, when, you've had one too many close calls or lost one too many battles, you no longer can be, resuscitated, and you have to pass on essentially to your next of kin, which will have you call out basically who your next of kin is when you're sort of doing your character creation. And that idea is whether it's passing it down to your son or your daughter or a relative or a friend or whatever it would be, you call that out, and when that does, your possessions and reputation kind of pass down, but not all of them, right? So there's always there's inheritance tax, and there's the sins of the father aren't fully invested on the son, but there's a little bit of that. And so, the idea would be, you would want to, live as long and a healthy life as possible before you pass on to your progeny or whatever. And so that was the inspiration of Death of the Spaceman, to really give a sense of, kind of close association with your avatar and your character. And, if at the end of the day, you've got to be there at your, essentially, the God view of the funeral of the character that you spent a year or so venturing around Star Citizen, there should be a tear in your eye when it happens. And so that was the goal. And so it was really a mechanic of how can we do that inside the game, inside our science fiction setting, which was, coming up with this concept of, in the future, with all the medical science we have, in states that you may consider you would be dead now, you would not be able to be brought back to life, or repaired, potentially we could do that in the future, but maybe we could only do it so many times. And so, in some ways, it's a little like the old school of you've got so many lives, right? And once your lives are done, the game's over. And the concept was that the maybe the more the worse the death, you're in some big fireball. That's more serious in terms of the lives you lose off your character than it would be if you were down and bleeding out and someone came and got you and managed to repair you, fix you up in a medical table or a hospital. And the idea would be, you would want to not run out of lives, and potentially there could be things you could do over time, go get some gene therapy or whatever that maybe add a life back to you or whatever. But I'm talking lives in a gamer sense here, but in general, we're trying to put it inside the fiction of the world. But the idea is to have real persistence to your avatar and wear and tear. It's also one of the reasons why we've got things like wear in the game. It's essentially one of the things that we have for equipment, we're gonna have for characters. You're gonna get older, things are gonna get old, and all of that. We have parts of that in the game, but it's not fully working. But that's all systems that are on the plan, or we need to turn on properly, because that's part of the problem with what we're doing right now. Is we're building this incredibly complicated, interconnected sort of simulation system, and not all the pieces are there quite yet. So even though we built some of the pieces and we can functionally do stuff with them, because the other pieces aren't there, the whole system doesn't work yet. And that is actually one of the challenges of building a game the way we're building it, sort of while people are playing it and we're building it. Death of a Spaceman is a good example, because it's something that I talked about at the very beginning as a core concept. It's always been a core concept, but we're only just now getting around to starting to implement the actual functionality and the gameplay features that will enable it. And I think when you have it, that will make people behave very differently in the verse, which is going to be super cool.
Yeah. Now, you buried the lead there.
They're very clearly talking about this differently now. They're being more close to the chest with this. I mean, the fact that this is barely even mentioned in a whole life, death, and life again beyond 4.3.1 update just shows that they want to be careful with this. Even the way that it's being described, like Waybreak is saying, I think it's not as hardcore as people think it is. It's like if Death of a Spaceman was in the alpha right now, it would not change anything. Right? How often are you guys making a new character for a patch because there was an update and now you have to make the character and start the game? The only thing that would change now is we would maybe make characters more often. We'd still get all our stuff. We'd still have all our money. We'd still be playing the same game. Death of a Spaceman doesn't actually make a huge difference outside of the money you lose and the reputation you lose, and those two things don't really matter at the moment. So I don't think this is as big a deal as it's made out to be, but I still think that they are aware that people are very scared of anything that mentions or talks about permadeath, and so they don't want to put out information any sooner than they have to. But there is a lot of information out here about it, and it would be nice to have it reiterated again with what clearly is coming off as like a new vision that they have for how this all works.
Kind of choose to kind of stay there and be like, okay, I need my buddies to come and rescue me. I need the law enforcement to come and help me, or maybe I've paid for some insurance that rescues my body or something like that. Then there is the kind of like, you've died in terms of you've given up the ghost, nobody's coming. You're like, okay, that's it. I'm leaving that body there, and I'm going to go back to a hospital and be revived. But that's kind of part of your DNA. That DNA is kind of going to be reimpregnated into essentially a clone of you. And then you'll be able to then go back to your location, and you'll be able to see, your dead body there. And as long as nobody's been there, you'll be able to retrieve your gear and so on and so forth. And then the third aspect in terms of like you passing on to your next of kin and that kind of thing. So what we're actually evaluating now is kind of how this is integrated into kind of like the core healing gameplay and the actor status. So we already did kind of some of the actor status with, temperature in terms of hypothermia and hyperthermia and things like, starvation and things. And what we want to do now in terms of the next iteration of this is what we call like the healing and actor status T1. And what that will do is introduce drugs. So you'll have a blood drug level and you'll be able to manipulate things, but it will also introduce all the different statuses that are surrounding you as a character. So for example, when you're in battle and you take a really bad wound to the arm, you might say, okay, I've got a fracture, so my arm, I've got a permanent fracture. I'd have to go back to the hospital to get that repaired. Otherwise, I'm going to start to suffer some status effects that is surrounding that. But if you keep taking damage and you keep taking more damage, that fracture might turn into an actual break, and then it might turn into actually coming out of your arm kind of thing. And the level of that status will
Just your arm
dictate
falling
the level
off.
of cover and level of healing that you need to go and basically get that healed, so you can.
So that's the reality that we are in right now. And we'll have to see where it heads. One of the most exciting parts, I think, of all of this, and it's, again, stuff that they haven't really talked about, which makes me sad, is the cybernetic limbs. They have worked on a lot of concepts for this stuff. They've talked about it. He even just talked about it today. But the idea that, like, part of Death of a Spaceman is that when you regenerate, these things are still saving the damage that you went through when you died. So, like he just said, if you get shot in the arm over and over and over again, eventually when you come back, your arm might not work because you have these things they call echoes. I don't know if I've got that page pulled up here. Let me see. Yeah, traumatic response echo. Known commonly as an echo, this is the term used to describe the link between an imprint and its source. When a major traumatic event occurs, such as death or even regeneration, the psychological impact of it can sometimes be strong enough to permanently alter the imprint. For example, if a person's legs are crushed prior to death, there's a possibility that an echo will be created that will alter the imprint so that the individual's legs are no longer functional. Echoes are the reason why patients may regenerate bearing the scars and wounds of how they died, and why only one copy of a person can exist at a time. Regeneration itself also creates echoes, and over time an individual's imprint will degrade and become less viable. This is also why imprints cannot be used to extend life, as the process of aging itself echoes through the imprints. However, testing has shown that higher quality the medical equipment and sphere, the less severe the impact of echoes will be. So you could have situations where you are in a nice place, but you've lived far too long, so you still have to get a cybernetic because your echoes are there. You could have a situation where you are in a really bad place and they can't really re-imprint you that well, so immediately you have to pick up like a more crappy quality kind of cybernetic. Maybe you go to Grimhex kind of thing. There's probably a good chance that you can do this on your own, just for aesthetics kind of thing. Like you could just go into a place and be like, I want you to chop my arm off so I can have a cybernetic. But I do think that this could be something that we see added into players over time as they lose more and more of that viability of their imprints. Again, this is the far future of medical, of Respawn, of Death of a Spaceman. This is what we are in the midst of moving towards, and I think everybody should know the direction they've at least laid out in the past as to where we're going, and think about the things that we're seeing now and how they might fit into that. I don't think the changes that they are making here with 4.3.1 and what they've shown in this update as wanting to be the future, I don't think these things really break what they had in mind. I think they lessen the impact of some things. I think this regeneration screen is a pretty big deal with having multiple locations. But as long as they get the drugs working correctly, they get more depth into the healing process, and they make sure healing actually makes sense as opposed to just respawning, I think they're still on a decent path to make this stuff work. But we'll see. Either way, there's a little deep dive for you. Where is medical gameplay right now? When are we getting cybernetics? Lord bless us, what is MedGel? We'll see how they balance it all as we go and test, but this should be in live probably in the next couple weeks. Well, not all this. Just some of it. All right. That's it. It would be very cool. Yeah, to get a cyborg arm. And they've talked about it a whole bunch. I don't think they'll rob us of that one. SC has a long way to go to be close to what it's supposed to be, even for 1.0. Yeah. You gotta say, Death of a Spaceman, as it was presented in the beginning, was one of the reasons you backed. I think it's a very cool part of the game. I would love to care about if I'm dying or not, you know? You think SC should have a system like in Tarkov where you toggle between the player character, which you can design as you wish, and random civilian, so to say? Ah, the old Agent Smith. That was an original idea they had. But yeah, it should, like Bribe said, it should not be preferable to die over waiting a little bit to get healed. Cybernetics we'll never see because we always wear flight suits and armor. Dude, by the time we get cybernetics, I'm assuming that we will also have starwear, which means much more clothes and customization. I think also having more localized gameplay and being able to go out in planets to do stuff is going to mean less just wearing flight suits. Like, if you can spend 3 hours on a planet playing the game and never have to go into space, not really much reason to be wearing a helmet, right? What if you get blown up? Do I regen as a full conversion cyborg? You just come back as Ultron. Can I drop the link to this page? Yes. Yes, indeed. Here you go. Maybe as a cosmetic available at character creation. I don't know. I don't know if new players should have cosmetics. Kind of ruin the point of them. I mean, I don't think they're working on cybernetics right now. Just something for the future. Starware isn't too far off. Fried chicken confirmed in a Bar Citizen. Of all the things that get confirmed in Bar Citizens, though, I feel like every other month something gets confirmed in Bar Citizen, and then we forget about it for a while, and then it comes back, and we're like, oh yeah, they said something about that. I'm glad that of the Starware stuff they've presented to us, they've dropped almost all the armors from that talk into the game at this point. Probably the kind of thing they'll talk about at CitizenCon. How many times do you have to die to get your Temu Darth Vader outfit? You're gonna have to pay for the Disney DLC for that one. New players should have bright orange jumpsuits so we can see them a light year away. Your gameplay will not consist of 8 hours a day space battles or mining. You're going to spend a lot of time planet-side and in station, so looking fresh is important. You got to look fresh to death, dude. You got something to breathe, then you let the people breathe in your good looks. Does that work? That doesn't really roll off the tongue, does it? They said in the past, if you experience enough trauma in one go, then you just can't respond as it just destroys your IVS. Yeah, I doubt they're going to stick to that. I know what you're talking about. He talks about like getting hit by the Idris railgun and stuff, but I think they'll back off on that one. All right. Cool. Oh, okay. Mrs. Tomatoes, head into the store. Everybody say bye. Bye. Oh boy, did I miss something? Why does it say 17 subs? I'm not getting alerts today, guys. I am very sorry. Gunslinger, thank you so much for your sub. 20 months now supporting the stream. And Aaliyah and Joe 10. Two of my faves to see on the stream. Freaking classic. You guys have been coming through here for 50 months now. Dropping in, giving thanks, saying hi. Little support. Appreciate you. I hope you're enjoying yourselves. New players have sperm suits. Do we even have sperm suits anymore? I don't think we get sperm suits anymore, huh? Robbed us of our sperm suits. Bar Citizen confirms are never from the source. It's always heard from someone who's heard from someone. I mean, it's devs at Bar Citizen will say things, but the problem that has come to fruition over the years now is that the devs know what they're doing, but a lot of times there's something else in the company that ends up blocking that stuff. And so like we get excited because we hear or see that certain things are coming along, but they don't. because there's other stuff that needs to be done. That's, I think, why they've stopped doing things like sprint reports and other things that show features that are well down the line, because at this point, like, they cannot, even 2 quarters out, even 1 quarter out, hell, they can't confirm whether or not something will for sure be in an update or ready to go, which is a bummer, but it's the way it is. That's just the way it is. Dude, there it is again. I really need to get that song on here. The other thing I wanted to talk about today was the Aurora and the Hammerhead getting an update. But before we get into that, I'm going to go to the bathroom. So I'm going to give you guys something good old fun to watch while I'm there. How about we check out some base building while I'm gone. Y'all enjoy this. I will be back very shortly.
All right, now we want to turn those raw resources into the more valuable refined materials. We saw the process talked about earlier with Thorsten. Of course, we want this. It is our refinery. Once again, there are multiple types here. This one is the large solid matter refinery. We have liquid and gas again, as well as biological, depending on the type of materials that you're using and want to produce. Refinery has input and output grids. For input, as you might expect, is for the resources which you're going to consume, and then the output is for the resulting refined goods. This is a terminal where you'd select which blueprint you want to use, and therefore which type of refining method you want. A lot of crates here with our extractor and our refinery, so we're going to put down our elevator storage. Base is really starting to build up now, but it's worth me mentioning again here that whilst we're putting these buildings down instantly in this video, large structures like this will take some time with the automated construction
Tickle
drones.
Wizard, I don't know what
the
ellipses mean.
Base we saw in the previous video, that can be done in a single play session.
Dot, he said. In the future, you'll probably spend more time in space than planet side. I don't even know for myself. With the new season, you have less reason, new system, you have less reason to loot boxes or shop in game. You wish we still lost our gear and they just made it easier to redeem lost gear. That's the next step, Artex. We only have this current system because they're working on that tech.
And with base building, we're introducing the concept of a freight elevator network.
Sorry, no chair stream today, guys. You get robbed of that.
Freight elevators together, and in turn, they will share the same storage. So as we're doing here, we'll deposit an item on freight elevator.
Think the Aurora will change much or stay basically the same? I think it's going to stay basically the same.
And then we're retrieving it on freight elevator B. There is a distance limit, but you can daisy chain the elevators together.
They just say they made the prototype for this, or was it crafting? That was crafting. I think base building is ahead of crafting, actually. This is just mocked up gray box stuff. This isn't something that, what they said they got crafting working for was a multiplayer prototype. So something that works between 2 clients. I bet you everything that they do in these, even when they're saying there are other players playing, it's probably very rickety in that aspect. This is probably all stuff that's mainly just meant to run on a single client. And even then, like they said, it's gray box. This isn't the real game we're looking at. Mock-up.
Now we always want a safe place to store our ships, so the trusty hangar will do.
Oh, you said you'd show us something while I went to the bathroom. Yeah, unfortunately, no. Not that kind of stream. Just the toes here.
See, it has this large,
all right,
we call
let's
it foundation
talk
tile.
about
It's quite special in that it can actually deform
the Aurora
terrain around it, making it easy to place such a huge structure like this. You can also place other buildings on it, so it's easy for making.
Base building's good fun. Let's talk about, though, one of the most significant things mentioned in the monthly report here of August, the Aurora and the Hammerhead are both getting updated to current standards, focusing first on the cockpit and the dashboard views, as well as physicalizing components. Now, the Hammerhead, okay, cool. I mean, it's a multi-crew ship. It's in Squadron 42. It's definitely going to need its update at some point. But the Aurora, look at this. This is the trailer for the Aurora's rework. So it first got released, I think, in 2014. And then it got a bit of an update 3 years later in 2017 for the release of 3.0. But this is the last time this ship really saw an actual update. So we're looking at 8 years now of this. Star Kitten, MVP. So this got it up to standards. Like, the interior definitely looked a lot better. You should have seen the one that was before this. Slight amount of customization options there. But like, this is the most basic ship in the game. This thing's a freaking sardine can. I mean, you can barely even tell where the bed is. The bed's like shoved in the back over here. There's almost nothing to this ship. But it is one of the more common ships in the entire game. I think even Jared revealed that, like, this is the most used ship, so it's clearly in need of an update. In fact, let me see if I can find... I don't know if Starchives is that up to date. But let's see if we can find that recent mention, because I don't remember what he was... No, this is fairly out of date now. It is a very common ship. Maybe not the one that people use a lot. You quickly move on from it because you need something that's a little more feature-filled and able to do stuff. But this is their chance. I don't honestly know how much they're going to update it. I think they'll give it components, accessible components, of course. They'll give it weapon racks and cargo as needed, probably. I don't know if they're going to keep the bottom cargo pod that you use right now to store boxes in. But generally, fixing up the shaders, making the geometry look a little better, probably going to make it look a little bit more like Constellation's newer style. So slightly better aesthetics, but I think the ship's mostly going to look the same. The whole point here is to get this to just be on feature parity with other ships. Because, you know, the worst part of this game is going to quickly become not knowing what your ship can do. Unless they can start getting ships updated pretty quickly. We're talking about engineering, life support, power management, maelstrom, switchable lights, closable doors. The doors have to be controllable, because now we're going to have a room system where the vacuum can suck out your atmosphere and you have to recharge that yourself. All of these different things need to work on this ship, because this is the ship that most people will be using to start out, and they don't right now. And I think one of the big things CIG's been missing is, like, they got to keep these updated like every couple years. This and the Mustang should be getting regular gold standard updates, even if it doesn't change that much, just because this is a lot of people's first experience of the game. Might as well give it to them good. And I wonder what your opinions are on their ability to sell older ships. A lot of the problem people have with Star Citizen is that they keep bringing in ships and selling those instead of maybe fixing or working on the old ones. How do you guys think it would affect their funding if they said, instead of selling this ship, we're gonna remake the Gladiator. It won't be exactly what the ship was. It won't be a different ship, but it's going to be updated, and a whole new slew of people are going to learn about it. Do you guys think that they would still do well on sales? Because I feel like, for instance, if they reworked the 600i and then put it back on the store with like a big announcement that it's reworked, maybe a new trailer, I think they could get a lot of sales off of the amount of people who have joined since then. And that goes for a lot of ships in this game. If you look at the time since many of the ships have released, Like, let's say they went and redid the Buccaneer, brought it up to current standards, and did some stuff with it, re-released it with a little bit of showy, put a new sales page on RSI, and like just made new players aware of it. They won't make as much, definitely not as much as a new sale, but I still think they would make a decent amount of money off of a pretty old ship, and probably not as much work as making a new ship. Yeah, the MSR, the Mercury Star Runner, that could be another one. A lot of these ships end up getting more sales when their gameplay releases and people actually want them. How many people do you think went out and bought a raft during the resource rush if it was available? I don't know if it was available. But things like that can get people to buy old ships again, and I think maybe CIG could use that and start depending on that, because we got to get these ships up to date, you know? You think reworks would do well, but new ships will do better? Kill two birds with one stone, though. You get a ton of extra goodwill by reworking old ships that people love. You get new sales from the millions of people who have joined since then. And you also get, I guess, just a better game overall. I don't know. It seems like a really good call. If you look at how many people have joined, let's take the 600i as an example. Released in 2017. Let's look at how many people have joined since then. Obviously, a lot of those people have bought 600i's in that time. But 2017 is right here, guys. How many? 250,000. 271,000. That's 320. This would be about 770,000. This would be about 1.25 million. This would bring it up to about 2.1 million. From there, we would get to 2.7 million or so. Let's say almost 3.2 million. And then here would be another like 3.6. About 3.6 million accounts have been created since the 600i came out. They got to sell to like less than 1% of those accounts to make decent money from that. Now, obviously, they would want to sell to more than 1% of those people. But like, there's a lot of new people getting into the game that don't know about a lot of these ships that have come out in the past. And there are a lot of ships that have come out in the past that could do with the rework that would probably get people more interested in buying them. Like the Terrapin, for instance. It got reworked when the Terrapin Medic came out. And if it had scanning and radar capabilities, you could bet more people would be interested in buying it. I don't know. That's just a little theory. I think that CIG could go a long way in monetizing their older ships. Double dipping, if you will. Yeah, I know. It sounds bad. But I think it does sound better than new ships. Do they have a ship team only for Squadron? No. No, they have to balance that as well. Do you think the Perseus is dropping with IAE? Yes. IAE, not CitizenCon. They should put out a new ship and a rework a month. I wouldn't be opposed to that. I have my fingers crossed really hard, like to the point where they got stuck the other day, that once we do see engineering hit the game, engineering's a big deal when it comes to ships, guys. It's hard to fathom. Let me see if I can look up the original version of engineering. Yeah, here we go. So here is Mark Abens, I believe, talking about their pipe system. Listen to this talk. This is dig around. This is 28. This is not Mark Abent, but it is 2018. I bet I can find something even earlier than this. Hold on. See if we can find 2017. This would be 519. Consider the purpose application. see what they say
Light
about
of
it
the
here.
galaxy. And we can
I know that we want to have atmosphere.
we've seen the very beginnings.
All right, check this out. Listen to this. Let's see if Jared talks about this.
I know that we want to have atmosphere.
We've seen the very beginnings of it in the pipe system preview that we had on the ATV. Fast forward the last 2 weeks, shooting out the glass and watching all the cargo that's in that room fly out and stuff. So
I think CryEngine has some kind of object that can actually pull along a stream. So we're kind of planning on putting those at the airlock areas, and like if you breach it, it'll just kind of suck in what's in this like cone, and so we should get that nice effect.
So there's a little bit of talk about the pipe system. Here is some more talk about it.
Hooked where we could attach it to a 2.0 ship, but also getting it connecting to the pipe system for power, for heat, for things of that nature, for the fuel system. It's
another mention of the pipe system. You can kind of hear where they're going with it. They're talking about power, heat, resources in general flowing through your ship due to pipes. Here's some talk in 2020 about the same thing.
Are all in progress, while other teams are working on the power systems and everything. The pipe system that will make all these components actually function and make removing them and putting them in actually mean something and change something to the ship. John, thank you.
So, lots of talk, a whole bunch of talk about that throughout the years. If you go back then to Star Citizen's original Star Citizen's original components document, components and repair. Ship repair and maintenance. I do believe this also gets into the pipe system. So this is an interesting document because it shows us stuff about patching up ships, about the multi-tool, about component damage, about module racks, subcomponents, all that kind of stuff. And this is not the page that I'm looking for. We're actually looking for thrusters in U, hard points, other systems, variants, modules, fuel mechanics, medical gameplay. Death of a spaceman, shields and management. Man, where is this? Ship repair and maintenance. Sometimes you get lost in the sauce when you're looking through all this stuff, man. Pretty sure it was in the components. Oh, you know what it was in? It was literally, they had an engineering document. It's actually kind of hard to find. Watch this. Engineering brief. For some reason, it's not on that list. But if you search for the right thing, it will pop up. But I'm not finding it. They just keep showing us medical. There's a pretty solid diagram that they make that shows off the ship pipe system. But I guess I'm not going to be able to find it. Here we go. Engineering ship component systems. I think this is it. Yeah, so at the bottom of this, they talk about pipes. How do the parts work? The power pipe supplies the power. Data pipe supplies data. The shield generator sends data on the data pipe to the shield level, can be displayed on the HUD. Pipes can be disrupted with varying repercussions. All this detail and flexibility is great if you're into it, but what if you don't want it? No problem. Customization will allow you to specialize your ship, but you'll still be able to enjoy the game without tweaking any of this stuff. So for people who think this sounds a little bit too advanced and complex, they are making this in a way that you won't really have to pay that much attention to it. But that being said, this was the pipe system they were building, and you could see here they had avionics pipe, main power pipe, info pipe, heat pipe, all of them connected to the different components and passed stuff around. Now, if you jump forward to Star Citizen's resource management, the first thing they ever showed on this, which was like a debug version of the actual gameplay, you will find... Oh, man. Jeez, the video is so old that it's actually not showing up for me now. Alright, Star Citizen Halloween Special. See if that makes it pop up. I never know. I think it's Interface Showcase. I never remember how to find these videos. There we go. So you can actually see this same system right here.
You can get this.
Or an ad. Let's switch browsers real quick.
Let me see.
We started by creating this small example of a ship where we have a power plant, we have a fuel tank, a battery, we have lights inside the ship, we have turrets, we have weapons. We tried to build a priority system, so you never want your lights to have the same priority as, for example, your power plant or your weapons. Basically, as soon as we start the simulation, the power plant goes, I'm online now, but I have no fuel. So all of this energy right now, the lights start draining the battery. If we put some fuel in the fuel tank, as soon as we put it in, the power plant starts going online, the battery starts replenishing because there's not that many consumers online. If I go, okay, let's say I set my weapons, my laser weapons to fire, as soon as I do that, there will be more drain on the energy. We can actually see we have a simulation of resources. We know we're producing this much power and we're requesting this much. We're running everything through exactly the same system. Now, same thing. Let's say someone takes...
You can jump forward and see this on a full ship scale here.
More
the
redundant.
hammerhead.
For example, in this case, let's say someone sabotages this and they destroy this part. You can see already this part of the ship lost resources. If we lose this one, this power plant is off. Let's say now I need to start shooting. So I'm manning my turrets and they're shooting. I'm starting my... Hammerhead doesn't have these weapons exactly here. We're just trying to simulate a ship at this point. You will start notice my lights started going off because in the priority, my lights are very low priority. If you look at the battery is starting to drain. Let's say at this point it
So you can see, this is 2020, and it's basically running off, oh, this is the wrong browser. It's basically running off the same thing that they're talking about all the way back here in, what is this, 2013? 2013 with the pipe system. So their whole thing about how ships are supposed to work, complexity of engineering components and all of that stuff has been laid out for this long. But like, that's just to give you an idea. This whole freaking rabbit hole was just to give you an idea of how important engineering is to the idea of what ships are in this game and how they interact. So, all that to say, I'm super hopeful that once this is actually solidified in ships, and I'm also hopeful, remember those fingers are crossing hard, that all this time it's taken for them to get through engineering is because they want all these ships updated to this system before they introduce engineering to the game, rather than just picking a few ships to test it out on. We can start to see ships more regularly updated to the new system, including old ones, the Gladiator, the MSR, the Constellation, the Aurora, all that kind of stuff. I am very hopeful that that is what's coming with a shift towards ships being actual ships. But we'll see. Either way, this was a whole rant about really just, can they make better use out of old ships, keeping them up to date, and not just creating new ships? And I think there is some room for that. I hope they take it on. And that's it. Yay! Engineering seems less important if there's not much in ship activities. What do you mean? Hope the ships consume more fuel, and it would be cool if they made a way for you to mine or sell fuel. Oh, you can mine and sell fuel. You can already collect fuel, you just can't sell it. When you fly through gas clouds and you have fuel scoops on your ship, you will gain hydrogen fuel back. All these old archives on what they've said in the past, what makes you think they are still on the same train of thought? I mean, that's the only thing that you can ever take from them. Why I go back to these so much is because you never know if they are on the same train of thought until you see things that match. And what I'm showing here is something that matches. This is a document in which they introduced the pipe system 13 years ago, 12 years ago. These are points throughout their development in the last 7 years, 9 years, where they have referenced that pipe system and explained again how it's supposed to work.
Here's
this is another one.
What we use to control our pipe system. So we have our pipe system that controls how heat is passed around the ship, how power is passed around the ship. And it turns...
So like these are all references to the same thing over and over and over and over again, right? All the way up until what I just showed you from the engineering starting. And now we've seen them talk about engineering multiple times, just about every year over the past 4 years. So it's stayed consistent. That's why I think it's going to be the same way. Some of these things don't stay the same though. For instance, bed logging. Bed logging. Y'all have sat through my rants about this enough. You can go all the way back and find the stretch goal for, what was it? Hibernation mode? Yeah. This is the ability to save and resume while you're out in space. When not in combat, power your ship down, hit the bunk, and exit the game safely so you can resume your journey. I guess they get away with this one because technically this will still be available for explorers, but now it will be available for everyone else, and you don't even need a bed to do it. But on top of this reference in the funding and the stretch goals, they've also referenced the idea of bed logging throughout the years of development, and they've generally just kind of included beds and pointed towards beds as helping to define crew counts in ships and stuff like that. But then, if you go back to this talk, it kind of comes out of nowhere where they're like, okay, nope,
We've
that's
seen
not
a
the
hot
case.
take about bed logging not fitting the vision of what Star Citizen is going to be. Care to elaborate on what you're thinking about?
And like, this isn't even hard to really prove. I can just do... I actually don't know if this will work. There are references to bed logging from the last 10 years. I have a video all about this. You can go look where I have all the references there. But at least now, I guess it's not as easy to find. But bed logging was kind of always a thing, you know, like, oh, you have a bed in your ship. It's longer distance because you can stay there. Now it's more of they just want to have buffs to it, which is
about
what they
doing
say
with
here.
bed logging and how logging in and out will look in the future? Is there a change to bed logging? Did I miss something?
I'm not sure what that hot take is, but we're definitely in favor of bed logging. In fact, in the future, we plan to give the player buffs for getting a good night's sleep in bed, and have that be part of the game loop. But we don't want to limit the player to that. It's like having a bed shouldn't be a requirement to log out of the game. In fact, in the future, we want, no matter where you log out, that's where you log back in. You have all the same missions, like we want your place in the universe to be persistent no matter where you log out. So that's where we're going.
So some things do change. And those are the times when I sit here on stream and go, oh. And who knows, maybe they'll take engineering and change it too. But my goal on this channel is basically just to give you the most up-to-date information and, give you the caveats that maybe they will change this, but if it's continuously being brought up throughout the development, generally they try and stick the same on it. Seems like they've been pushing for more on-foot gameplay versus in-ship gameplay, so engineering at this stage feels a bit less important unless they get station engineering in. Engineering isn't going to feel super important right now. It's the kind of thing that will be making a big difference in how it changes the game, but yeah, the importance isn't going to feel that much until we're playing a game that, where everything depends on it. That being said, space station engineering will be a thing. Ground-based engineering will be a thing. Vehicles on the ground will need engineering. outposts will need engineering, player bases will need engineering. And then whenever there is more reasons to be in spaceships, that will kind of add into that on the ship side of thing. What's the test ship? He said someone sabotaging in that. All there is are a couple fuse panels and an engineering screen. Seems like the updated ships are missing quite a lot still. The specifics for... So the test ships they used for engineering were the Hercules C2, the Hammerhead, and the Ares, I believe, were the 3 ships that they were using to test. As far as what they need to work, I'm pretty sure it's just making sure all the components are actually connected to the ship systems. I don't think it's so much player-facing stuff as opposed to just making sure all the components are physicalized, they are all connected to their systems, and the actual responses that a player has to those systems are detected by the ship. Is it true that they're almost finished with adding engineering to all ships? I don't know. They haven't given us an update from what I know. I hope so. I'd be very disappointed if not. Yeah, they had some full demos with the C2. Not seen the ship scoops. Some ships are blessed, dude. Some ships have benefits that people don't even know about. If you go to the 100 series sales page, they even talk about where's the air system? Elegant firepower, extreme touring, extraordinary capacity. Yeah, but where's your... Man, they just don't advertise these things. No wonder people don't know about them. Here it is. Explore the universe with the perfect coupling of luxury and performance. Origin, design, and engineering bring you the ultimate personal touring vessel. Among the most fuel-efficient ships in its class, the 100 series empowers you to explore the galaxy with added style and grace. You know what? They're not even explicitly saying here that this is a fuel refinery anymore. It used to be the case that the 100 series could take in, basically refine hydrogen fuel for itself. But they don't explicitly say it here, which is kind of funny. CIG said single-player ships will have engineering through the MFDs, right? What is your prediction on engineering releasing? Not till next year, at this point. Kind of says it in the image, but honestly, CIG and images, you might not want to take that as the ultimate say with some of this stuff. Yeah, I don't actually know how many ships have a system like the 100 series with the full-on refinery as opposed to just a fuel scoop. Because the way that they've talked about fuel in this game is basically you can take other gases and refine them into your hydrogen fuel. Or you could take different concentrations and change it out. So I'm not really sure if that's still part of the plan or if they're just going to simplify it. Kind of weird. I'm not getting any of the alerts and sound effects from the stream for some reason. Disappointing. We will get engineering this year, you think? That'd be cool. Maverick, thank you for the bits, dude. And the rotor, thank you as well. I don't know about engineering this year. In order to get engineering out, it's got to be in the EPTU for probably at least a patch cycle. So, like, if they were going to get it in this year, they're going to want to get it in the EPTU, I would say no later than by October. And while they've hinted at that happening, it's just, yeah, all they're saying here is that in July it got closer to being in the, it got closer to going into the EPTU, but then this month they said the engineering screen was updated to show rate of heat of change for components. Nothing really about further scheduling it. So I don't know. We'll have to see. Hopefully we get something outside of helmets and chests that make a hood. We will get it in the EPTU this year. Yeah, that's what I think. This is a EPTU kind of thing. As far as it getting into the game, I don't have a lot of hope for it being this year. Can you have the code? That's Mrs. Tomato. I think the code's Garden Gathering, but you might have to hit up Mrs. Tomato for that one. I hope they continue making very role-specific ships to make you spend more time with unique in-ship tasks. Samesies. Will Maelstrom be with engineering? It will not. That'll be a... That would be a big one. But I don't think Maelstrom is close to coming in yet. Yeah, 100%. EPTU in parallel while live is running live. That would be fantastic. I hope they're working in that direction, but they haven't proven that they can do that yet. But yeah, I hope we see both engineering and scanning and radar stuff hit the EPTU this year. Possibly Starware too. If they have the chance. And oh, let's go all the way. How about hacking and quantum travel rework as well? And throw control surfaces in there while you're at it. Let's just test all the things in EPTU, please. Thank you. Is ship refueling with the Starfarer in game? Yes. And I do believe This Week in Star Citizen is out to tell us This Week in Star Citizen. Gosh, there's so many tabs here. It sounds like we've got some good news for This Week in Star Citizen. It's a little less of a quiet week than we've been having over the past couple of weeks. This is actually going to be an important week. You guys are going to get some good information this week that will make a big deal in our understanding of how Star Citizen is even going this year. First, we're going to be getting... Pirate Week is starting on Monday, it seems, or on Wednesday, along with a roadmap update, which will probably give us the last update on 4.3.1 before that goes live. That means things like the Apollo will probably get confirmed, or at least added to the roadmap. I don't know if it's on there. We'll also see some other things that are probably tentative get confirmed, and maybe one or two things not on there get added as tentative, but doesn't sound like they have too much else planned. On Thursday, though, we are getting the Star Citizen Live with Benoit, the one we've been waiting for. Benoit is the CTO at Cloud Imperium Games. After they were acquired by CIG, his company Turbulent, he was made the CTO and put in charge a lot of the communication around the more tech-focused things they're doing with this game. So They will be having a one-on-one follow-up to February Star Citizen Live Special Edition, where they'll be talking about a variety of tech-related subjects. Maybe that's what we'll go over tomorrow, actually, on the stream, just to get a better update of remember what he was talking about back then. But really, it has to do with the persistence problems, the stability of the game, progress on server meshing, all that kind of stuff. That's what comes from him. So this is going to be a really important talk. And unfortunately, I am going to be out of town for it. So, not sure how I'm going to be able to cover this one. Maybe I'll do it. That's a long thing to sit down for while we're on vacation to cover. I'm not sure what I'm going to do about this. It's kind of funny that after all this time, they're finally putting this out right as I'm leaving. They totally planned it. Regardless, whatever summaries come out, there will be half a dozen channels putting out some information on this. I won't be there for you this week, unfortunately, but you will get the information from this, and it will have a big impact on how the community feels about this year overall, and probably our outlook for the rest of the year. So I would tune into this for sure by the end of the week. They also say this Friday, check out your RSI weekly newsletter in your inbox. We'll recap the week's highlights, showcase standout community content, provide a sneak peek of what's coming next. I wouldn't be surprised if the sneak peek is the Apollo. Finally, this Saturday, join two exciting community-created events, the Grand Prix #1 race from Anzia, a popular family-run restaurant. Super Dragon delivered tofu and coffee cube noodles out of the Lorville Industrial outskirts. I guess that's the Super Tofu Run name of the race. The same day, Atmo Esports offers Fighter Flight Group Stage. Fighter Flight is back. I know some people are really interested in that. So like, there's not an Inside Star Citizen or anything like that, but there is a very important Star Citizen Live that everybody should check out. Again, just to give you some understanding of what was covered during the last time he was on. So he did a tech talk last year, live tech talk. He did this one this year. This is actually one of the videos where people point to. Like, I've asked people, where do you get that they call this the year of stability as opposed to the year of playability? Because those things, I think, mean two different things. A lot of times people point back to this video, in which the thumbnail says a more stable universe and the headline says a more stable universe. And obviously Benoit is very focused on talking about stability. So they take it as like, okay, this is definitely the year of stability because that's what this video is about. But it's not. This is about multiple different areas of the game, and Benoit is just one part of that. That being said, here is just a little bit of how he usually talks about this
fix an
stuff.
elevator.
That's an example.
It's
right?
okay. All right. So I want to talk about the three areas that were covered in the letter to the channel. We'll start with stability.
Yeah.
So I know this is going to sound like a simplistic question, and there are probably lots of Star Citizens. I can see them in the chat right now. JJ Land 614 says no one cares about bug fixing. Is everybody right? Is JJ Land 614 right? Everybody?
What?
Sorry, there was no reason for me to do that.
Sure.
So lots of people who have followed these shows and they
No, I get that stability is in the letter from the chairman. My point is, he didn't just say stability. That's the thing. That's where the misunderstanding comes from. It's in the article where they define playability, because playability is not just stability, and I think people are kind of missing that.
know parts of this. I've seen the people in the chat. I already know this because I watch everything. This is a show for everybody.
Right.
What does working on stability really mean? What is we've had a lot of platitudes here, and platitudes are necessary. They're helpful to explain things, but translate this into real world shit for me.
Right.
I use my one swear. What does working on stability actually translate into as far as action goes?
Well, it translates into aggressively monitoring. What we call internally stability covers like some of the very simple metrics, like do servers crash, right? Or do hybrids crash? do clients crash, and together, do these cause client disconnects, right? And so all these metrics go into what we call basically stability, but it goes further than that. Those are just basically the indicators, like the big level indicators. What stability is like things like bare bone things, like are you able to successfully connect to the game?
Can you log in?
Correct. Can you do successful interactions? Like, can you go to your ship and press F to join your cockpit and then not it take 35 seconds? Is it consistent and reliable? Meaning, like, is it like this all the time? Or is it there only sometimes, right? So stability is about consistent and reliable experience interactions. It's also, when we work on stability, we're talking about improving the observability. So teams that, when you guys are playing the game, you have a very immersive experience, and issues that affect you during your gameplay are part of your bubble, right? We need to be able to see those issues from the outside. So from the server side, from the cloud environment side. And so improving observability gives us that, because there are many systems in the game that have not been instrumented to be observed, right? And so sometimes, you know, some older systems, I'm not going to name ATC, you know, are going to have like some hiccups that we can't even see, but players report to us, and then we have to investigate, but we need more observability. So that's working on stability is part of that.
That being said, players were reporting that the freight elevators weren't working all the way back during this episode. So, you know,
changing systems that typically are problematics into self-healing systems so that they can just repair themselves. So when they get into a case that we know, we just modify the system to make sure it tends towards a state that's functional. And the observability comes into play to make sure that it does function. Working on stability also means establishing budgets. So budgets for errors, budgets for performance. And so that affects everybody in the company. But if we talk purely on stability, it's all about, A, is the content that we've produced here or the feature we've produced here using too much resources, whether it's CPU, GPU, server calls, bandwidth, storage, networking. So reinforcing those budgets, going about finding the offenders, right, that go above these budgets and chasing them down, solving them. So that's stability work. Reducing error rates, obviously, that's part of it. That's the resulting. And the challenge with working stability is that, especially in light of server crashes, is that it's a fog of war. So you can launch a game and you're like a version of the game, and there's one crash that's going around. We can identify and dedupe crashes, right? So we know what they are. So we're looking into one, and then we're like, oh, if we fix this one, it's going to be very stable, right? But then when you fix that one, that allows the program to continue. And then more bugs show up, more crashes show up. So it's a fog of war. It needs a constant care and attention. One thing we've done this year to help that is that we have a much more robust hotfix process that, frankly, we use a bit too much, but it does give us the ability to get some fixes out when we see big problems right away. But it's to contribute to that fog of war. So that's what working on stability for me is. It's all of these issues together.
So they kind of defined it for themselves, and I think a lot of people think of stability as stuff other than what he said here. But he did set that for himself at this time. So it's going to be interesting to have him come back on and tell us, hey, do you feel like you've addressed that? Have you guys made more work on that? Is this another talk about the year of stability or playability or whatever? Or are we going to get more into some of the more interesting bits, you know, the ePTU, the server meshing, Maelstrom testing, and new star systems? Like, there are two different ways that this conversation go. It could go both ways. But that's kind of where they were in those conversations before. Like you said, the freight elevators are working great now. But like Paul said on his Captain's Table podcast over the weekend, there's no way they didn't know going into that event that freight elevators were having problems. You know, just judging by how they have this conversation. So it was a real miss to not have something ready for that when that event went live. From a tech standpoint, the game is better than ever, other than the worm mission dropped in Pyro. The game is absolutely better than ever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right now.
Slowly.
Let's talk about elevators and trams.
All right.
Let's talk about elevators and trams.
We didn't talk about repair. You don't want to talk about repair?
Well, actually, that question was mostly about the 60-30 and the Stony. You basically covered all that stuff.
That's kind of true.
So, elevators and trams.
Yeah.
Broken or missing elevators in various locations, preventing access to hangars and other areas, or simply trapping players inside. Trams that either let you fall through the floor or yeet you into lower orbit. My question to you:
What the fuck? That's 6.
I thought he already used his one curse.
So, brief history, right, of transit. This is a very old system that's been in the game for a long time. And transit in the context of streaming is already a non-trivial problem to solve, because and I need to dive into the why, so to explain a bit, the complexities behind it. But so the transit system is composed of multiple components, right? You've got peripherals, so that's, for example, the button you press to call an elevator or a tram. It's the indicators that say, hey, the tram's coming in, this amount of time. Those are peripherals. You have gateways, which are locations where a carriage can stop at. So, for example, if you're in Lowerville, and you go to the train, where the train stops, it's like a station. That's called a gateway. You have carriages, which are either elevators, trains, trams, all these things that move along a path. And then they go from gateway to gateway, and they respond to orders that are submitted from peripherals. All sounds nice and dandy. What's the problem, right? So in any game, any other game that doesn't have full-on level streaming, all of these things are always loaded. So the manager, the piece of code that actually is managing the fulfilling the orders and moving the carriages in general, or has the logic of the carriages, is always, all this network is streamed in. It's all loaded, so it's always available. It knows where the carriages are, it knows what's happening, everything is there. In our environment, because of our SOCS technology, that allows us to have more performance on the servers because we unload the rest of the zone. That means we unload those carriages. So think about your Lowerville train that you see stop at you and then leave. On the server, if nobody's on the track, it doesn't have a carriage there. It's unloaded, right? And so the current iteration of the system actually destroys that carriage and will recreate carriages when it needs it, right? And there's been a ton of issues with this. So that's the first part, right, is the streaming part. That makes it a bit more complicated. The second part is that the way the system was built initially, it would fulfill these orders to those, send orders basically. You call the elevator from your hangar, I need to send a lift there. So the system is going to tell the lift to move. The lift moves on its own, right? So you will jump and then do the actual path. We want those to be physicalized, so they're actually following certain paths. Now, the issue is that combined streaming with these orders and state is lost in certain conditions. And so the system just needs a whole lot of changes on its communication layer to be reliable. And it needs a fundamental change in how it fulfills these orders. Instead of just sending a message to a carriage and hoping for the best, the transit manager needs to be actually always tending towards the state that it should be in so that it can self-heal for any kind of issues, right? Whether creating the carriage failed or streaming out and losing a piece of it, the system needs to change to be able to properly do that. So that's what the new system that we're writing is going to do. It's going to solve these communication issues with streaming, and it will make the system self-healed. But we also need to do fixes to the current system immediately, right, to get that working. So now we do have a crack team on this right now, where we've significantly increased the size of the group that is looking at the current elevators issues, which we have absolutely regressed on. And they're looking at adding the self-healing component I just talked about directly in the system. So I was happy to hear that we have now proper reproductions for at least a couple of cases where...
No, honestly, he's talking here literally about, like, at this point, elevators were a big problem. That's why he's being asked about this question. That's why Jared said, what the f, when he started the question, because it was a big deal in the community. Since then, elevator problems have largely been eliminated, and he's sitting here in front of the camera talking about how they planned on doing it at that time. So clearly, they had a solution, they implemented it. It might not be perfect, but it's done a lot of its job. And it drives me nuts that people are like, oh, the game hasn't become more stable. Nothing's changed this year. They haven't done anything. And like, he's sitting here explaining it. I will say this, the game's not as stable as I'd like, but they've clearly put some work into making things work better. The reason it's not a teleport mainly is because the elevators, well, I don't actually know this for a fact, but from what I see, the elevators use the same system as trains. And trains can't teleport because that would kind of destroy the whole point of trains. So elevators probably also don't teleport just because they run on the same system. As far as the problem with the freight elevators coming in broken for the event after people knew they were broken, I think mainly what people see as a problem there is like CIG needs the feedback for these game systems to be able to work. And they were getting a lot of feedback on freight elevators since it was released. I mean, like literally in the time periods that they asked for specific feedback and stress testing on those elevators, one of the feedback things they were getting was that planet-side freight elevators have problems. And it seemed to a lot of players like they took those problems and said, we don't really know about those, and then released the event. And then after the event came out and said, well, we didn't realize that this was going to happen when the event started. Now we know, and we're able to fix it. Nobody's unhappy that they're not able to fix it. It's just kind of like, what do you mean you didn't know? that even if you didn't have time to fix it, maybe you guys should at least still say that you knew because everybody was saying that. Those are the weird bits of communication that I've mostly seen people refer to. We should all accept that it's in testing. All of this stuff is temporary in testing. It's alpha level, all that jazz. But when it comes to the communication surrounding this stuff, I think they need to do a better job of making sense to the average person, at least, I think. And when I say average person, I mean average space nerd that is far too obsessed with all this like us. Yeah, they are more consistent now. The elevators have done way better than they used to. And as you can see, throughout this whole talk, he hits a lot of the big topics. Server instability, persistence, hangars, elevators, quantum travel, prison, mining, Vulcan, inventory. Which is why we're very excited to see what this talk might be coming up this week. This might have some good stuff. I am very hopeful, but we'll see. Either way, this is what Astropub likes to call the beginning of CIG's year. This is where things really start to ramp up. September is the summer of Star Citizen is like the pullback of all the water when a tsunami is forming. And then October, November, December is that tsunami. We get all the most anticipated ships, all the biggest news, the biggest update drops happen. The devs come on camera more to talk about stuff. They hold back information so that these 3 months, the last 3 months of the year, are good fun times and lots of things are getting shipped and talked about. So we will see what comes up of it. This is probably going to be the start, this Star Citizen Live, and from here it's full speed for the rest of the year. I'm like I said, I'm hopeful, but we'll see. When they first added server meshing, they were a total mess. They're much better now. Absolutely. This was hands down the best interview they did this year, so I'm hoping part 2 is just as good. Same. Backers will have one experience themselves, then assume it's a universal, when CIG may not see the issue crop up often at all. That's why the scale is so important. But I don't like the scale of which freight elevators were having problems before is, see that, I think that is a problem for CIG. If they can't grasp that that is a big problem for the, like, if there's, let's say, 2,000 people running into this issue a week, but they don't think it's a big problem until 8,000 people or 15,000 people are running into it a week, then they really shouldn't have an entire test revolve around that thing. Toes. But those are opinions, right? You disagree? I disagree. I think that CIG needs to try and track the small problems more closely, or at least prepare backers for those small problems before making entire parts of the game depend on them. And, you know, I think that's the whole point of us having PTU, of us having these new releases of updates where they are like asking people for feedback. If they can't act on the feedback before it becomes a much bigger deal, then there's something that needs to be done in the testing process to make that work better. Like right now, we know that refueling is a problem, but maybe it's not enough people who are reporting it to CIG that it's a problem, so they don't have the data to know it's a problem. I would be very disconcerted if they then created a whole event where people had to use the refueling mechanic to pass said event, and then coming out after that event and being like, hey, we didn't have the data to tell us that refueling was going to be a huge problem. Now we do, so we'll fix it. I think everybody would be like, but refueling is a problem. How many people does it take to tell you it's a problem? You're able to replicate freight elevators getting stuck. You submitted that report. If you stay at the terminal for the elevator till it's up or down all the way, it never breaks. When did you submit that? It does seem strange to focus an entire event around a tech item that had not had a full pass done on it since this talk. Yeah. Wonder if they just like ran out of time. They should add refueling missions where you fly out and help stranded NPCs or something. Agreed. That'd be sick. Refueling missions where you help NPCs. Medical missions where you help NPCs. Repair missions. Like, all those things would be really cool. Just need some NPCs that work better. They definitely need more bug reporting because you just deal with bugs and hope they will fix it, but you don't report them. I do that too. I will admit. There's no way around the scaling issue. It's not just an SC problem, it's an online games problem. I get the frustration, but not the attacking of CIG for it. I am not attacking CIG. I am simply stating that I think there need to be some better tests. And if scale is the problem, then they should probably use their cloud test launcher that they told us about they were building so that they could have clients spool up in the game and test things out in large scale. But I think that something's got to give for the live servers, and I don't know. I think any game, not even just CIG, any game company needs to be able to know how their systems are going to respond to people before they like depend on them more. I understand if they would put it out into the live servers and then it breaks and then we have problems or anything like that. I don't think if a system is in the game for a year though and it's problematic for that year, even on a small scale, I think that there needs to be a little bit more focus in on that, especially when Benoit is like talking about these things specifically. Don't think he's saying you're attacking CIG, but people do, is what he's saying. I see. Medical missions for NPCs are about the only reason for medical drones to exist. With soft death not in-capping players, medical drones don't have a purpose. That's fair. We don't have the dangerous locations to call for them yet. Not you, but plenty of other content creators. I see. I mean, I don't think attacking them is going to make any bit of a difference. But CIG needs to get better at deploying these things at scale, in my opinion. Like if engineering comes into the game and it has some problems, I hope that they don't make an event that focuses on engineering, at least until they've had a pass on it or something, or at least until they've addressed the problems that people are reporting. Trying to find all the bugs in testing is never going to happen with all the different ways, all the different way live players play. Sounds like we were in a bad situation then. They should give permanent account rewards for doing stuff on PTU. Not big things, some small rewards will do the thing. People stop caring about PTU when they learn that nothing persists. Yeah, they also stop caring about PTU when it's been available for too long to the first wave. I think that's why they've started flying from Evocati into Open PTU pretty quickly lately. You cannot report bugs in game. That's a rough one. That's a shortcoming. But that's like, you know, the story of a lot of Star Citizen is you had to go to the website to know what event's going on, to get a guide, to find a tutorial, to submit a bug report, even to add somebody to your friends list. You would either have to know the special commands or you'd have to go to Spectrum on the website to add them. Or like maybe in main chat if they're in your same server. So I feel the sympathies there. They really should have a way to report bugs from the inside of the game. Would it be a good thing if they just took the game down for like a month or two and just fixed the bugs, then brought it back online? They'd lose a ton of money. That would also be just crazy in terms of press. So many conspiracies that the game is shutting down and that they're running, they're cutting and running, they're taking the money. They can't shut down the live servers. Too much riding on it now. As QA for software company, finding every bug before release is practically impossible, let alone for a game this big, but some of the stuff they let through is shocking even to you. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to find every bug, but it is a really big revelation that they didn't know freight elevators had problems. I'm not saying fix it, but that means that like the issue council reports on freight elevators never made it in front of anybody who could get that message into CIG. Which, like, I get you can't find every bug, but if something is critical to the success of an entire month of activity, I would hope that like somebody would have seen that pop up. With the scale, it absolutely doesn't really break the same way that it did during the event. But even without scale, there were some problems that I don't know, maybe they did see and they just didn't think that was as big a problem as what we experienced. I don't know. I just feel like they can't really afford to have releases like that at this stage. Yeah, it's alpha stage, but they've moved beyond that, I think, in terms of marketing and expectations. Priority number 1 this year should have been an in-game block list. All bugs scroll through IC, and you have to survive the terrible duplicative flag to have a chance. CIG incentivized people to mark reports as duplicative, and it's a shit show. Well, that certainly doesn't help. No, those are the kinds of things in process that I guess make these things get missed. Said you're going to be here tomorrow. I'm about to go get the hay, get behind the wheel for an hour. All right, see you tomorrow, man. I do hope to be here. I can't confirm for sure, but I do think I'll be doing at least a short show tomorrow. You're sure you heard them say they knew there were bugs? Just how many new bugs would appear with so many people using the cargo elevators? Maybe I'm remembering wrong. What's wrong with issue council? Somebody was just saying that the duplicative feature causes problems. In-game bug reporting would probably create more bugs. You believe Unreal Engine 5 by Epic, same company as Easy Anti-Cheat, tries to grab the game. What? Not only about someone seeing a bug, it's about enough data coming in to mark it as a priority. Yeah. So making that happen more seems like an important thing to make happen, to do. And I don't know how that is. Maybe we incentivize more PTU. Maybe when they release these things into the live servers, they run something then that incentivizes people to go use the new features. But a whole year later for that kind of a problem is pretty rough. And I guess maybe that's why we need ePTU. But ultimately, it sounds like the problem is just that Star Citizen is still too small. It's still too small to get enough people into the game to test properly in the ways that are needed. And they need to attract more folks. The best way to attract more folks is, I guess, the game just playing better. It's a rough thing to do after focusing so much on playability. In a normal year of Star Citizen, I don't think it would have been nearly as much of a thing people would have had a problem with. But in 2025 specifically, expectations have been raised for releases, so they got to be rough, or they gotta be better about it. Star Citizen runs 20,000 concurrent. It's enough for CIG. It's going to take time. Project is beyond any comparable scale. Where do you get the 20,000 concurrent? Yeah, it's always been an issue how small it is. That's what I thought the point of the whole cloud test launcher was, man. But I guess that can only test certain things. You searched? Yeah, I don't think they put those numbers out though. Where did you find it from your search? Don't use that MMO site, whatever it's called, MMO population site. That thing is wildly off from what I've seen. I mean, I wouldn't know either, but it doesn't seem to be very accurate. They say that like this game is doing incredibly well. According to CCU Game, we're beating last year in terms of new players. Yeah, I know that much. I've got that up on the screen right here. Well, I did. Now it's loading. I don't think this even tries to give a daily count of how many people are playing, right? This is just yearly stuff, I think. CR shared a couple numbers, but that was like 3 or 4 years ago. No, I had not changed it from players to money here. So this is what it looks like in terms of new accounts, but toes. I don't think they have like the daily active players or anything like that on here. You know, the minor changes that have made this game more enjoyable, not losing your inventory to a bug death or waking up in your home hangar, that's playability right there. You're fairly confident that the 11,000 number a guy on Reddit gave was believable given the activity surrounding the game. Search metrics indicate that Star Citizen is louder than games much, much larger. I don't know, man. CR said they had over 1 million unique players per month, and someone did the math that with the average playtime number they shared, it was 20 to 30. But that was in 2022. And they are, or maybe 2023, they are very particular about when they share certain stats. Let me see. This is, I don't know, is it this one? Yeah. So this is what I'm guessing you're referring to. So in 2022, over 800,000 new accounts were created this year to follow or play our project. So that's not even paid accounts. He said follow or play. This is just 800,000 new accounts. There's somewhere else I think he did reference the million like you said. Our daily active users, which is unique players logging in each day, has grown by over 50% this year and is double what it was at the end of 2019. They don't say daily active users though. They do say we are averaging 240,000 monthly active users, which is 33% higher than our average monthly active users from last year, with highs of over 400,000 with this year's Invictus launch week. So 240,000 monthly active users in 2022, but if you look at 2022, it is the most popular year by far for Star Citizen. This was the year that you had people like Jack Frags and Summit and some other big names in gaming putting out videos pretty regularly, at least through the month of May. And it led to a whole bunch of people joining. Look at how many people joined in May. 176,000 accounts were made in 1 month. So while I do believe 2022 was a great year for them, I also think that the game did probably have more stuff going on that year than it does right now. Not to say that it's not getting more popular, I just think a lot of people are holding off until some significant things happen to jump back in. So I wouldn't necessarily take the numbers here as linear growth from this. Things were going well at the time, but I think there is still, this doesn't necessarily tell us how the average players per day are going right now. It's like 3 years later. The intro of CitizenCon 2022, he did mention unique player numbers per month. I mean, it should match this. 240,000 per month. Max of 400,000. This letter was published at the end of the year, December 2022. You consistently hear complaints about the time it takes to get to doing stuff in game. What if Habs were moved to the planetary spaceport when apartments came in? Possibly a hot take. I think the people who complain about doing things in this game just don't plan very well. I myself will talk about the time it takes to do things, generally when it comes to groups, but most of the time I do complain about that is because I just am doing something I didn't expect to do. Like if you want to jump in and run missions in this game, you can go to sleep on your ship. Like 5 minutes away from your mission place, you can spawn off with all your stuff already located on your body. Sometimes it doesn't work, but I think people don't know that. Don't get me wrong, it does take a while to do things in game. I just think that there are a lot of people who don't know there are ways to work around that. I think they have plenty of players to continue as they have. You think these charts are going to demonstrate a boom? More people are getting their hands on hardware capable of playing the game without paying huge money. That's a big one, Love Talker, yeah. New signups are not the same as concurrency, more playable than ever, higher funding than ever, possibly most concurrency ever. If we're talking about the numbers that they mentioned back then, all I'm saying is looking at trends, that doesn't really tell me that we have tens of thousands of players playing every day. Maybe it is higher now, but they don't want to put the numbers out. And the fact that they haven't put any numbers out since then, I don't know. Maybe they don't have anything to be proud of. Maybe they just don't want to talk numbers. There is a statistic about play numbers, a Twitter post. Let's see. I don't know how to do that in the way that you sent it to me. Is it just... I just type in the number after twitter.com? No, that's not it. Twitter.com/ Roberts Space Industries / number? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how to do that. Yeah, bed logging works. I've bed logged. He says that average daily unique is around 50,000. That was what? CitizenCon 2022? If they have average player counts of 50,000 in this game, then they absolutely should be advertising that. Imagine having 50,000 people playing in your game every day and your game is nowhere close to being done. I mean, that should be the #1 thing on the main website, in my opinion. If you can pull that off, I think you should have the active player count just front facing to everybody who comes through, because that's the main thing people don't believe. People don't believe people play this game. They think everybody is just sitting in there in front of their computer sinking money into it and never hopping in the game. If you have 50,000 players playing your game, you better tell someone. You have any direct quotes? Average daily unique. All right, I can just look that up here. Average daily. Let's see.
Before I'm ready to consider Star Citizen done, people are playing more than ever. This year, our average daily unique players is around 50,000, and we have peaked at 130,000 several times this year. This compares.
Why wouldn't you be advertising this more? That's so much. Wait, hold on. SteamDB. How many people are playing like the most played games out here? Trending games, we got as follows. Players now, most played games. Let's see where that would rank Star Citizen on Steam. You would be in the top 25 most played games on Steam. You're competing with DayZ. You're competing with Call of Duty. You're competing with Counter-Strike Source. Like, you're murdering the game at that point. Civ 6, The Sims, Valheim, Elden Ring, all these games that, like, Dune Awakening. He said peaked several times. No, God damn it. Listen.
And we have, this year, our average daily unique players is around 50,000.
Average unique daily players.
And we have peaked at 130,000 several times this year.
Said peaked at 130,000. If you want to talk about peaks, then you're looking at competing with things like Rust and Helldivers. But as an average of 50,000, you're doing pretty good numbers. Yeah, I don't know. Might not be concurrent. That's true. 50,000 average a day could mean that, I don't know, there's several hundred people at any point throughout the day. 50,000 on average a day is very good. Does unique players mean different new players every day? No, I think that includes repeat players every day. Every social BS gets pampered and really social stuff gets bonked. What? Social, like things that have to do with people? I did not see about the 9 US shards. Even if it's 20 to 25 concurrent, it's still up there. Right. I mean, you could drop down. I was anything over 10,000 concurrent, I think is pretty damn good for a game like Star Citizen. I mean, look at the quality of games that you're competing with at that level. And these are easy games to play. Balatro is super freaking easy to play. Yeah, man, they're doing very well for themselves if that is true. But I don't know. We'll have to see. Yeah, a few thousand definitely. I can see like 5,000 on average at any point. People playing. That's not crazy. Someone confirmed one night that there were 9 unique US shards at the same time. 9 times 600 is over 5,000. 5,000 times 4 regions is 20k. Oh, there's no way the other regions have as much as... I think the US probably still has the most players in this. But if they're reaching 20,000 concurrent players this year, I would believe that a lot more than 50,000. And again, that he didn't say concurrent. He said on average per day there. So if I could see them hitting 20,000 players at a time right now during resource rush. Hell yeah. But on average throughout the year, I wouldn't believe that. And I definitely wouldn't believe a peak of 140. But who knows? Maybe, guys. I'd take everything with a grain of salt. It could be good. It could not be good. Either way, this all started because we were talking about glitches and bugs and stuff like that. I think that as they push more into this idea of playability and advertising to more people and getting more people in here, they definitely got to hold down better consistent stability. And that's why I think we need an ePTU version that's playing alongside the live PU. And, you know, I don't know how to get past the scaling problem with testing, but they got to find a way to be able to test things and not break the whole damn game for weeks. Not the whole game, but like break the main event in the game for weeks if they can't just test that stuff beforehand. That's important. Ask any 10 people which they've heard of Squadron 42 or GTA. To be honest, it's a good thing that they've heard of GTA instead of Squadron. I mean, one of the things people like to say is, oh, nobody's going to buy Squadron. Everyone who knows about Squadron's already bought it. It's not going to sell anything. Yeah, because most people don't know about Squadron. They know about GTA. Squadron's got a lot better chance at selling in the next year than GTA does at getting new fans in the next year, you know? It'd be cool if they had current player count in the launcher. Hell yeah, man. I'd love to see that info. Sounds like interesting info. A lot of people don't know about Star Citizen. Hell yeah, dude. A lot of people do not have any clue about Star Citizen. And of the people who do know about it, a lot of people don't really know what the heck is even happening with it. People playing Helldivers right now, I think it was like 50,000, 70,000. Somewhere up here. There it is, 97,000. I was way off. You see 2,100 people right now across 5 unique shards, so that's not nothing. Not nothing. How many people playing No Man's Sky? 82,000 right now. Helldivers got a huge boost from player count, but it doesn't even show up on this list. This list is just Steam. Same with No Man's Sky. That's one of the big things too that I think I'm hoping was clear in my video 2 weeks ago about No Man's Sky being like such a... Oh no, that was this last week. Being like such a representative of the space game genre is like... They've got... How many was it? 80,000 people playing No Man's Sky right now, but that's just on Steam. You've also got VR platforms. I guess Steam VR is probably a way people are playing it. You got Xbox, you got the PlayStation, internet, you got people playing on Switch. It's pretty wild how much that game spreads and scales. Squadron 42 is not going to take off because so few people care about spaceship games. That's okay. You don't need it to take off. Look at No Man's Sky here. Spaceship game. 82,000 concurrent players. We good, dude. I'm not worried about the amount of people who might be interested in a spaceship game because I am now aware that a lot more people like them than I thought. I didn't think that No Man's Sky could pull those kinds of numbers now. And No Man's Sky is a different kind of game. But like, you could scroll down and find Stellaris. I wouldn't expect Stellaris to be putting up random regular numbers of 12,000 plus players at any given time. It's this freaking Spaceship 4X game. But here they are. Elite Dangerous does pretty well. Jump Space has a ton of wish list. It's like one of the most wish listed games on Steam. FTL has been around for a while. Space Engineers is a thing. Like, all these games have healthy player bases. It doesn't need to blow up. Maybe they wanted to because money, but I don't really care, as I just want it to be a good game. Fairly certain CIG knows they need to make a good impression, so they're not pushing it until it's more polished. I hope so. Yeah, No Man's Sky just released a huge patch. But that's not, I'm not talking about the bottom line or anything like that. I'm talking about the potential. A space game can potentially get 80,000 players concurrently after putting out a big patch. Not saying Squadron or Star Citizen will do those numbers, just showing how many people are willing to check out a game like that. 2 to 3 weeks ago, actually, No Man's Sky was still hitting, they do pretty well. Like, even just 2 or 3 weeks ago, they were still around 10,000 on average. They really don't drop below, like 12,000. Is this per week? Is per month? Is this like average per month here? So yeah, every month they're generally averaging in the teens, if not the 20s. And they put out an update and it usually spikes over 50. Fairly consistent though. SC can't be compared as its first-person immersive sim, and No Man's Sky is third-person animated dopamine machine. No Man's Sky is first-person. You can do both. I believe it started out as a first-person game, though. But yeah, some people think they're not comparable. I think there are aspects that you can see in both. I think there are things that people enjoy from both. So I'm here for it. What was the Starfield all-time peak? It was 300,000, I think. 330,000. Currently sitting at about 5,000 concurrent. I have hopes for Starfield. But when they released their last update, there was almost no spike. You can see here. It was negligible. So this was the spike that they hit for their last release. It only brought it up to 21,000 on Steam. It's not the main place it's being played. But even Starfield pulling 300,000 players. A lot of that is Bethesda hype, but some of it is definitely excitement for a space game. EVE Online is pulling 25,000 on Steam right now. Yeah, that's another example. Certainly a type of space game. I don't see it on here. Either way, this conversation's gone so long. Really, it was to talk about stability and their ability to just like get these updates out and keep the game stable. I think Star Citizen's going to have plenty of success as long as they can just keep the game stable in live. Launch the EPTU, test all your stuff there, but keep this kind of constant growth in the PU with some ship releases and you know, some good updates. I think they're okay. Oh, I like X4. X4 is cool. I'm just not really big into the graphics. Don't really get me with X4. But I also like planetary gameplay. I like first person, like in the space station, exploring and looting and shooting and stuff. X4 is a great freaking game for a single player space sim though. Kanga? No, I heard about it. Haven't tried it though. Oh, 25. I see. 25,000 overall, not Steam. All right, y'all. I'm going to wrap things up. I got some video work to do. We got to get ready for our trip this week. I don't feel like there are 50,000 average players playing SC. I think that number is too high, but I do think that the game is doing okay. Don't think it's like in any sort of trouble or anything. Where are we heading today? Where are we going? Where are we going? Cobra, Tom, Logan, 5-star. All right, y'all. It's been a cool minute since I dropped y'all with Cobra, so I'm going to send you over his way. Have a good time in there, folks. Drop the toes for him. Do some entertainment. Force him to entertain you. Tell him that if he doesn't entertain you, you're going to sacrifice him to CIG. We'll use his lifeblood to further stabilize future patches. I think that's how it works. That or like buying more ships. I don't know. Something like that. Either way, thank you all for being here. Always a freaking blast. Love Mondays. We will see you all tomorrow. We will be ending our giveaway, I think. Possibly. And we will be having one last hurrah before we head out for the next 2 weeks. And I don't know. Maybe we'll try and do a stream or two from when we're gone. But That's no guarantee there. Thank you all for being here. Hope you had a wonderful day. Treat yourselves well. Go eat something yummy, guys. Get a good drinky drink in. Maybe some lemonade or something that's like not quite soda, but also kind of tasty like soda, you know. And enjoy yourselves. Give someone a hug you love. Eat something you love. Do something you love. You know how it is. Treat yourselves well. You deserve it. You're good people. I will see you all in the next one tomorrow. Bye-bye.